Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. How are you all? All good? ठीक है. My name is Rajesh Govindaraj. So I'll be covering your environment part of this PD365. So polity is done. ठीक है. So how many of you have given UPSC already and चलो हाँ पहले बताइए पहले attempt कितने लोग दिए हैं? How many of you have given? ठीक है. Almost. How many of you have qualified prelims? 1 2. ठीक है. ठीक है. Good. ठीक है. तो बाकी लोग इस साल हो जाएगा. ठीक है. But the idea is not to qualify just prelims, you know, so to qualify UPSC. Yeah. So environment part is slightly tricky, particularly prelims in prelims portion. So so many of the questions, even after preparing thoroughly, you will feel like if at all you have given last year, so you might have realized that. So even after preparing thoroughly and giving, so you would have realized तो missing था और कुछ करना था, है ना? It is not something like you had studied everything, you had prepared everything. Okay, so there is some lacuna is there, some shortage is there always. So trust me, that feeling will be there all the time. Even if you prepare 100%, that will be there all the time. Okay, so environment is the subject is very dynamic and it is not like the other subjects of prelims like polity or history or or even geography for that matter. So they are more of static in nature, where you prepare from one particular source and you can go and see the question paper. You will get a fair idea. At least 80 to 90% you will be able to answer. So if you are prepared thoroughly. So environment is one thing where even if you are prepared thoroughly, one or two sources, and after that it is not guaranteed that you will be able to answer for sure, and none of the material will be able to cover 100%. Okay, so that is a truth. None of the material will be able to cover 100% of environmental portion. So ये assume करके ही चलना है हमें. So we have to assume this. So because if you worry about those one or two questions which is not going to be covered, which you are going to miss anyway, if you worry that, so you will not give much concentration about the other areas where you can easily score. I know. So so target in environment is not to attempt 100%. One or two questions will be there which you have to leave. Okay, so you have to leave. There is no issue with that. But so whatever you are attempting, so you should be able to be sure that what what you have marked is the right answer. ठीक है. So I'm just waiting for the PPT actually. Let me just see. So the part of environment, let me just give you a brief introduction, then we can start with the topics. So I think in mains, directly the questions related to environment, you will get maximum 2 to 3 questions. Okay, so that is in paper 3, right? Paper 3. But in prelims, so as per the recent trends, we are having the maximum weightage for environment. So when you compare to any other subject for that matter, in fact, traditionally it is the polity which used to have the highest weightage. But if you see even the last year questions, there were nearly 20 questions directly from environment. Okay, so environment that covers both the traditional areas as well as the current affairs areas. So overall the syllabus as given in the UPSC notification, the prelims, okay, this is the highlighted part which is the environment syllabus. It says that general issues on environmental ecology, biodiversity and climate change. Okay, this is the overall topic. General issues on environmental ecology, biodiversity and climate change. And उसके साथ में एक extra instruction दिया है that do not require subject specialization. Okay, this is the only part where this kind of instruction is given compared to any other subjects. Okay, so in no other subjects it is mentioned, but in environment it is mentioned that do not require subject specialization. Why it has been mentioned? I think few of the phases I have taken last year. So last year भी मैंने बताया था, बताइए. Yes. So basically it's a very broad area. So unlike the other subject areas, you require a specialized study. So the environment requires much broader understanding of the issues. And this is expected from you that even if you're not preparing for UPSC, you should be knowing about this. Okay, it is expected that you should be knowing about this even if you're not preparing for UPSC. Any educated person should know about these things which are happening around us. So, but unfortunately, our education system as well as the overall level of awareness which is there in the society or our news channels or newspapers तो ठीक है to some extent, at least our news channels. So, the way they are portraying the news items, so we rarely hear about the actual issues, the reasons behind that. So which any common man should be knowing, any educated man should be knowing. So we usually don't have much of awareness about the environmental issues. So UPSC, if it is going on idealistic lines, so it is assuming that everyone should be knowing that आपको पढ़ के आने का ज़रूरी नहीं है, ऐसे ही आ जाओ तो एग्जाम में आंसर कर पाओगे, बट ऐसे तो नहीं हो पाएगा. Okay, it is highly not possible. Without preparing for environment specifically, you will not be able to answer this. So we need a proper, thorough study. Right, so this is the syllabus. So overall prelims parts, prelims में क्या क्या topics आपको cover करना है. Let me just give you overview of this. Okay, there is some technical issue. So we'll take 1 or 2 minutes. So live stream has stopped. तो in the meantime, so बताइए last time जो दिए थे, so environment का question कैसे लगा? So how was environment's question last year? So what is your opinion? आप बताइए. आप तो थे last year. हाँ? ठीक है. ठीक है, ठीक है. थोड़ा बहुत आया था, हमारे क्लास से भी आया था, तो हमने भी बहुत चीज़ें डिस्कस किया था. So good. So other than that, the nature of the questions, what is your observation? What is हाँ, तो ऑप्शंस बहुत ट्रिकी बना दिया था ना. तो वन पेयर इज करेक्ट, वन ऑप्शन इज करेक्ट, 2 ऑप्शन इज करेक्ट, ऐसे तो कभी हमने देखा ही नहीं था यूपीएससी में ऐसे वाला. Yes. So that makes the questions much more difficult actually. तो अगर ऑप्शन में एलिमिनेट हो जाता है तो थोड़ा बहुत श्योरिटी रहता है. So in these kind of questions it is very difficult to take a guess. So usually तो मैंने ही बताया था. So usually I tell, so you can get the answer by elimination. So even if you're not 100% sure, through elimination you can you can get some surety about the questions. But if the options are framed in such a way that they're saying one option is correct, two option is correct, so तब तो guess मारना बहुत मुश्किल हो जाता है. Elimination को ही eliminate कर दिया था. ठीक है, ठीक है. So yeah, so we're discussing about the nature of last year's questions. So very briefly about the opinion. Okay, we'll come back there. So I was telling that. So let me just briefly give you the overview of the environment section. So the environment for prelims part. So unlike the other subjects, there is no well-established units or a single book from where we can actually get it as a single source. Yeah. So the issue is, so there is no specifically identified units as the case with the other subjects. For example, geography. Geography में तो हम बोलेंगे, so you can study geomorphology, climatology, oceanography, biogeography, and then Indian geography, and then economic geography. So like that. So but in environment, so it is all mixed up. Okay, for our ease, even in the material also we are given in the same manner. So usually the environmental units are classified. The first part is actually ecosystem. Okay, ecosystem is the part where there's more of conventional concepts related to environment you will study. Right? The second part is the second part is environmental degradation. Okay, so I'm just giving you an overview of this entire environment subject. Syllabus में तो ऐसा ही generally दे दिया था, so there is not much clarity. So in ecosystem you have to study about all the basics of this environment. Okay, so ecology, what is ecology, what is ecosystem, what is food chain, what is food web, है ना. So biogeochemical cycle, उसका तो बहुत ज़्यादा questions आता है. Biogeochemical cycles and the ecological interactions, है ना, positive interactions, negative interaction, ये सब तो याद आ रहे है ना. So all this you will study under part of this ecology ecosystem. So environmental degradation includes all the aspects of pollution, air pollution, water pollution, soil pollution, and then climate change, global warming, and then ozone depletion, okay, and then land degradation. So deforestation, all the issues related to the environmental degradation, so including the loss of biodiversity. So otherwise, biodiversity should also be studied separately. So this is one of the very favorite area of UPSC. So biodiversity is where the questions come on various different types of organisms, right? Endangered species, so critically endangered species, and some of the organisms which have very specific functions. जो last year भी question आया था. Okay, so usually question आता है, 3-4 question तो usually आता है. So earlier they used to ask very specifically about their status, IUCN status के बारे में पूछ रहे थे. So अभी थोड़ा सा और advanced level में जाके their functions. Okay, so what is their role? What is their peculiar behavior? So like that. The questions are there, but all of them are from biodiversity, right? The overall diversity of life which is present on the surface of Earth. So then there are various conservation efforts. Okay, here comes our current affairs. So what exactly we are doing to in order to stop all this degradation, loss of biodiversity, all of this, right? So all of this can be covered under this part, conservation efforts at the national level, at the international level. Okay, so national level पे government ने क्या क्या कर रहा है? So all the different legislations. Now in the last 2-3 years, the legislations have become very favorite part. You have to study all the important legislations related to forest and environment in very detailed manner. ठीक है? So there are a total of 10 legislations. 10 legislations बता सकते हो? The legislations related to environment. Okay, starting from the first Indian Forest Act. Indian Forest Act 1927. ठीक है? And then Wildlife Protection Act 1972. And then Air Act. Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974. ठीक है? And then उसके पहले 1980. 1980 कौन सा है? Forest Conservation Act 1980. Then comes Air Act 1981. Then 1986 Environmental Protection Act. ठीक है? And then 2002 Biodiversity Act. Then 2006 Forest Rights Act. 2010 NGT Act, National Green Tribunal Act. 2016 Compensatory Afforestation Fund Act. ठीक है? So there are a total of 10 legislations, very important part, and you have to cover them in a very detailed manner. ठीक है? जो current affairs में आएगा वही हम cover करेंगे. We will be covering only those legislations which are currently in news, not everything. So it is up to you. You have to cover it by yourself, all these legislations. Okay? So like that. And there are also various different international initiatives, so many conventions, protocols, okay, so groupings, all that happens at the international level, including the UNFCCC or UNCVD or UNCCD, right? All the protocols related to these. So all of this you have to cover it. Basic idea hona chahiye. Okay, so try to develop that basic framework, basic timeline se yaad rakh lo. So with that, current affairs becomes easier. Otherwise, if you read current affairs, current conventions हो गया, organizations हो गया, बहुत random लगता है, याद नहीं रहता है. So if you have that basic idea of all the brief international events which have happened from 1971, Ramsar Convention to till recent Paris Agreement, जो एक overview है तो बहुत clearly याद रहेगा. Okay, you will be able to remember that very clearly. So then we also have various initiatives related to sustainable development. Okay, sustainable development includes all the latest events, latest initiatives taken to ensure sustainable development, right? So energy related actions, agriculture related actions, and usually agriculture related जो भी question आता है, it is related to sustainable agriculture, okay, sustainable practices, the new practices, उसी के ऊपर ही question आता है, right? So last year भी आया था system of rice intensification, right? So that is related to sustainable practice, because normal agriculture, normal rice cultivation is not very sustainable, है ना? बहुत सारा उसमें मीथेन आता है, बहुत सारा पानी कंजम्पशन होता है, बहुत सारा so even salinization भी होता है. So to overcome that, since that is not sustainable, so we have to move towards sustainability. So all of these initiatives should be covered under sustainable development. So broad topics, right? 5 headings. Mains में एक और add हो जाएगा, environmental impact assessment, right? Fine. So in this, we will not be seeing much of topics related to this ecosystem and ecology in current affairs. This is totally static type. So I hope you have enough idea about this. If at all you are not having, pick up any book. Okay, कोई भी एक compilation पकड़ो. So उससे थोड़ा सा detail में cover कर लेना. बाकी सारा, so all the other units, you need the overall support of both conventional part as well as current affairs part. Okay, they are equally important. Okay, all the latest events which are happening in the context of environmental degradation, pollution से related से लेके global warming, climate change, biodiversity loss, all of this, all the different types of degradation, the recent data, your recent reports, all of this you have to study here. Okay, so all the different types of organisms which are in news for one or the other reasons, okay, endangered, critically endangered, vulnerable, है ना, जो भी न्यूज़ में है ये सब यहाँ पर पढ़ना है. And here this is the most important, पूरा current affairs related ये, and there also it is current affairs related only. So this is your overall syllabus part, and then the weightage. Okay, this graph shows the overall number of questions which have been asked in the last 8 years, 2015 से लेके, and last year 20 questions. Okay, 20 questions, you can see, you can easily count 20 questions here. In fact, 1 or 2 questions of geography can be easily answered using environment, right? As a pure boundary तो नहीं होते, pure geography, pure environment. So that makes environment one of the highest in terms of weightage in the entire prelims, right? So there are 3 types of questions which we can notice here. In any, you take any paper in the recent times, you will find totally static type of question, या totally current affairs type of question, or in between. Those questions which are static in nature but inspired from current affairs. ये बहुत tricky होता है. Totally static predict करना भी easy है. Totally current affairs predict करना भी थोड़ा बहुत easy है, पता चल जाता है. But ये जो होता है ना, these are usually the static part which are not considered to be like traditionally important नहीं है. तो कोई भी ऐसे पेरिफेरल एरियाज में होते हैं तो उसको पकड़ के लेके आके पेपर में डाल देते हैं. तो इसलिए डालते हैं कि वो करंट में न्यूज़ में है. If at all you have heard about the news, you will remember this. If at all you have not heard about the news, you will not be able to recollect. Yeah, okay. So because ऐसे बहुत सारे topics होते हैं environment में which are like peripheral areas. Okay. So for example, let me just show. So these are the examples of static type of questions. So जो मतलब जो traditional environment ठीक से पढ़ लिया तो आंसर आ जाएगा. You don't need current affairs for this. Right? This one. जो the following leaf modification occur in desert areas to inhibit water loss. Okay, biomes में पढ़ा होगा आप लोगों ने. Ecology, ecosystem, biomes. What is the answer here? All 3 are there. So ये तो मैंने बता दिया. This is considered to be part of your so traditional है ना, conventional हो गया अभी तो. Schedule 6 of Wildlife Protection Act 1972. इसका आंसर क्या है? License is required to cultivate that plant. That is the idea of Schedule 6, right? So legislations thoroughly detail में पढ़ना है. So there is no other way out. Okay, you have to study that. This is part of your static environment part. So these are the current affairs questions. The questions are, the topic is taken from the current affairs, but the actual topic is also part of your like the conventional environment. Okay, for example, you would have studied about the waste management rules. Okay, 2016-18 का ये तो current affairs नहीं माना जाता है. Okay, there are total of 6 waste management rules, major 6 waste management rules है. उसमें तो हम जनरली पढ़ते हैं, ऊपर ही पढ़ते हैं, बहुत ज़्यादा डिटेल में जाके नहीं पढ़ सकते हैं क्योंकि there are so many rules, you'll not be able to remember. But if there is anything related to current news item, then you have to clearly see about it. ठीक है. So extended producer responsibility, of course it was in news. Okay, so news में ही था. So बहुत बार बात हुआ था. So plastic में भी introduce किया है ना, extended EPR, तो इसमें news में था. So ये पहली बार कहाँ पर था ये? Okay, so this is the question. Like this is static. It is part of your static part of environment, but inspired from current affairs. Okay, take this example also. Furnace oil. Usually furnace oil के बारे में कौन पढ़ते हैं? So we will study only major air pollutant, water pollutant. Okay, each and every type of pollutant will not be seeing. So this was furnace oil came in news. So then you have to see furnace oil and their impacts, right? So you're getting the point. So this is second type of question, which is usually not a traditional conventional part. So we usually neglect this, but since it is in news, we have to study those which are in news. We not only study the current item, okay, we don't only study the current news item, we also go back and study the background. So that these kind of questions can be easily handled, right? And third, purely current affairs, है ना? ये देखो इसको कॉमन कार्बन मेट्रिक बाय यूएनईपी. तो इसका तो सिंपल आंसर है, assessing the carbon footprint of building operations around the world. ये इज टोटली करंट अफेयर्स, फैक्चुअल टाइप इन्फॉर्मेशन टाइप है. अगर आप करंट अफेयर्स पढ़ा है तो याद आएगा, अदरवाइज तो नहीं. यू कैन नॉट टेक ए गेस एट ऑल हियर. ओके, सेम इज दिस वन. ओके, बायोडाइवर्सिटी के ऊपर जो ब्लू फिन महाशीर, कावेरी रिवर, इरावदी डॉल्फिन कहाँ पर मिलता है इंडिया में? डू वी फाइंड इरावदी डॉल्फिन? चिलिका लेक. ओके, नॉट इन चंबल. सो यू एलिमिनेट दिस, यू विल गेट द आंसर. सो सारे ऑप्शंस में दो है. ओके, द आंसर इज 1 and 3, राइट? सो दिस इज टोटली करंट रिलेटेड. महाशीर तो बहुत न्यूज़ में था. ओके, ये जो रिवर डॉल्फिन भी न्यूज़ में था, तो इसके ऊपर क्वेश्चन आ गया. सो लाइक दिस, ठीक है. नाउ कंसिडर कमिंग टू द सोर्स कौन सा फॉलो करना है? सो फॉर स्टैटिक एनवायरनमेंट, सो आई वुड से देयर इज नो सिंगल सोर्स फ्रॉम वेयर यू कैन रेफर टू द एंटायर एनवायरनमेंट. पूरा के पूरा ऐसे कोई भी एक बुक नहीं है कि सारे एक जगह में मिल जाए, ठीक है. सो पिकअप एनी कंपाइलेशन, जो कंपाइलेशन होता है यूपीएससी रिलेटेड बुक्स, नोट्स, है ना. सो जो भी स्टैटिक पार्ट को कंपाइल करके मार्केट में मिलता है, फॉर एग्जांपल विजन है इसका भी है. सो वी आल्सो हैव ए कंपाइलेशन ऑफ एंटायर स्टैटिक पार्ट. So read it once thoroughly. Okay, so that to give more importance to those parts like where there is concept. Okay, so not those things which change every year. Okay, हर साल चेंज होने वाला छोड़ दो, वो सब तो करंट अफेयर्स में कवर हो जाएगा. जो स्टैटिक है, जो कांस्टेंट हो गया है, where there is some conceptual understanding is required, try to see that and develop a thorough understanding. That is required. That covers around 40% of environment. पूरा एनवायरनमेंट सिलेबस में अराउंड 40% उसी से कवर हो जाएगा. रेस्ट 60% इज करंट अफेयर्स. 60% में हम टारगेट करेंगे 50%, बाकी 10% तो सो इट इज़ नॉट इन आवर हैंड्स, ठीक है. 100% टारगेट नहीं होगा, सो बी रेडी फॉर दैट. वैसे तो प्रीलिम्स ऐसा नहीं कि आपको टॉप करना है ना, कट ऑफ क्लियर करना है इन ए सेफ मैनर. सो टू क्लियर दैट इन ए सेफ मैनर, सो वी हैव टू प्ले वेल, स्मार्टली, ठीक है. So we'll start with the first part. So in the first part, we'll be talking about climate change initiatives. All the climate change initiatives that are related to climate change, which is usually considered to be part of environmental degradation. But climate change के ऊपर बहुत ज़्यादा focus होके क्वेश्चन आते हैं, बहुत specific questions आते हैं, तो इसलिए we'll cover that. And one confusing part in this climate change is that there are many international organizations. Okay, so many players are involved. उसके ऊपर थोड़ा बहुत एक confusion होता है. So let me just clear that. What are the different types of organizations which we find? So usually at the international level we find 5 types of organizations. ठीक है. So जो भी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन इन्वॉल्व होते हैं, सो अभी लास्ट 2-3 ईयर्स के पहले तो ऐसे वाला क्वेश्चन नहीं आ रहा था. उसके पहले इफ़ यू सी लाइक 15-16 का क्वेश्चन जो यूपीएससी प्रीलिम्स का देखा, तो सो यू विल फाइंड 2-3 क्वेश्चंस ऑन डायरेक्टली ऑन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. इसका ऑर्गेनाइजेशन हेडक्वार्टर्स क्या है, इसका इंडिया पार्ट है या नहीं है, और व्हाट इज़ द ऑब्जेक्टिव ऑफ दिस. ओके, सो हु हैज़ इनिशिएटेड दिस, ऐसे डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चंस आ रहा था. ओके, सो अभी थोड़ा बहुत ट्रेंड शिफ्ट हो गया. So earlier, if you see 14, 15, 16, the questions were more of factual in nature, information in nature. Then 17, 18, 19, again it became conceptual type. Okay, conceptual type हो गया. फिर अभी last 2 years तो again it has moved towards the factual type. Factual type of questions are coming up, but it is becoming slightly unpredictable. Okay, so we have to prepare all the types of questions. Okay. Okay. At the international level, we find all the different types of organizations or the groupings which are working in the conservation of environment. Okay, so there are majorly 5 types of organizations. First one, intergovernmental organization, international organization, NGOs, programs and funds. Okay, so I'll tell you the difference. So at the international level, international organization जो जिसको हम बोलते हैं, so usually it is made up of 2-3 countries together or multiple countries together, or they're independent organization which are working at different countries. Okay, 2-3 countries में काम कर रहे हैं. All such organizations we call it as international organization, right? So in that some of them are intergovernmental organizations. Some of them are intergovernmental organization. What is an intergovernmental organization? Yes. Yes. Basically, the members to this organization, the people who are working this organization is government itself. Okay, the sovereign body of a country is part of this. It is not involving any kind of non-governmental organizations or private organization. इसका ज़्यादा authentic रहता है काम. They are more powerful because they have the power to implement whatever the decision the organization is taking at the national level, right? So जो भी ये decision लेंगे, ये body decision लेंगे, intergovernmental body, so वो national level पे implement करेंगे, because it is represented at the national level by the government itself. The government itself is part of this organization. That is why it is called as intergovernmental organization. It is between the different governments. Other than this, any other organization which is normally called as international organization, it is not necessary that only the government is part of it. It is open for everyone. Okay, so even the private organizations can be part of it, even the NGOs can be part of it, everyone can be part of it. That is what is international organizations. Okay, any international organizations. इसका एक सब कैटेगरी हम बोल सकते हैं intergovernmental organization where only the governments are part of it. Okay, examples. IUCN, है ना? IUCN is an example of international organization where anyone can be part of it. Okay, NGOs can be part of it, and self-help groups, or even the private organization. Even you can start a organization and then you can join IUCN. There are a total of 1300 members to IUCN. Okay. So other than that, if you see WMO, World Meteorological Organization, it is intergovernmental. It is intergovernmental in nature, right? So another example, Ramsar Convention. Ramsar is also intergovernmental in nature. Okay, Montreal Protocol is intergovernmental in nature. Because कुछ ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ऐसा उनका काम ऐसे रहता है कि नेशनल लेवल पे इम्प्लीमेंट करना ही है. दे नीड टू फिक्स सम रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ओवर देयर, दे नीड टू ब्रिंग सम अकाउंटेबिलिटी ओवर देयर, सो देयर इन्वॉल्व्स दे इन्वॉल्व ओनली द गवर्नमेंट ओवर देयर. दैट इज व्हाट इज इंटरगवर्नमेंटल. NGOs, there are many NGOs working at the international level. So you should be able to make this difference clearly. जब भी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के ऊपर क्वेश्चन आता है, you should be able to clearly identify which one is this. NGO is purely non-governmental. It is not part of the government, right? It is not part of the government. It is not part of the private too. They are not here for profit. They are not here to make business. Rather, they are not here to exercise power. They are not here to gain power. That is what is NGO, non-governmental organization. Example, बर्ड लाइफ. ठीक है. मोस्ट इम्पोर्टेंटली ये जो हमारा ग्रीन पीस है ना, ग्रीन पीस, दैट इज NGO. WWF, yes, that is also NGO. प्रोग्राम क्या होता है? प्रोग्राम, there are few organizations which are set up with a specific objective, to fulfill a specific objective. For example, UNEP. What is UNEP? United Nations Environment Program. उसका यही काम है कि एनवायरनमेंट रिलेटेड जो भी UN डिसीजन को इम्प्लीमेंट करना है, whatever the decisions of UN related to environment, you have to implement that. That is the work of UNEP. So with the specific objective you have, that is what is program. What is a fund? Fund, it is also an organization which takes fund from someone and gives fund to another one. ठीक है? It takes fund from someone and gives fund to another one. For example, Global Environment Facility, GEF. Okay, there are certain donor agencies or donor countries who are ready to contribute. It will take the funds from them and it will allocate the funds to those who are in need of it. बस funding में ही काम करते हैं और कुछ नहीं. Okay, these are the overall types of organizations which are involved at the international level. So other than this, we have few other terms which we use in the context of these. ये जो अभी climate change में बात होगा. So one is convention, another one is treaty, agreement or protocol. Okay, what are the differences among these? Convention is a broad grouping. Okay, convention is a broad grouping. Treaty or agreement is usually part of the convention. ठीक है? Protocol is also part of the convention only. Okay, it is usually part of the convention itself. So convention क्या होता है? Convention is basically, it's a broader grouping of like-minded members. Okay, broader grouping of like-minded members who are ready to work towards a specific cause. Who are ready to work towards a specific cause. For example, so climate change. Okay, when climate change was evident completely, all the countries who came in this Rio Earth Summit 1992, they decided they have to form a separate grouping, है ना, to deal with the climate change, to fight climate change. That is when they formed UNFCCC, United Nations Framework Convention to Combat Climate Change, right? UNFCCC बोलते हैं, right? So convention is just a broad grouping. But when you make a convention, you don't decide what exactly is the specific objective. Okay, there is one broader objective, that is to fight climate change, or that is to reduce the ozone depletion, or to reduce the impact of mercury. Mercury के लिए कौन सा convention है? मिनामाटा कन्वेंशन, लाइक दैट. एक स्पेसिफिक ऑब्जेक्टिव से बनाएंगे. एग्जैक्टली क्या करेंगे वो तो बैठ के बात करेंगे बाद में. तो अभी तो डिसाइड नहीं किया है ना. सो we'll discuss that gradually in the meetings of these conventions. What do we call the meetings of the convention as? COP. COP बोलते हैं. COP is a term not specifically used for only climate change. Climate change related ही नहीं है. सारा convention का अपना COP चलता है. Right? COP means Conference of Parties. Which parties? Parties are basically the members to this convention. Okay, every convention will have its own set of members. UNCBD has its own set of members. UNFCCC has its own set of members. Vienna Convention has its own set of members. It will have its own COP. उनका COP अपने आप चलता रहता है. So that is what is convention. Once you form a convention, you have to take specific action. There comes a treaty or agreement. When you decide to take a specific action, so you will bring a treaty or agreement. For example, UNFCCC was finalized in 1992. Rio Earth Summit में finalize हुआ था. 1994 it came into force when majority of the members signed and ratified it. 1994 पे वो force में आ गया था. 1995 से they were just meeting every year and they were discussing how to reduce the convention. Sorry, how to reduce the climate change. In one of the COP they decided, चलो कुछ protocol बनाते. Okay, we'll make a clearly set targets. Okay, we'll try to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. Okay, so आप लोग इतना कम करो, मैं इतना कम करता हूँ, ऐसे बोल के अपने आपस में बात करके डिसाइड कर लिया. They fixed a clear deadline, fixed a clear target, how much of gas to be reduced, who has to reduce how much, all this they decided, and that became a protocol, which is Kyoto Protocol. ठीक है? Kyoto Protocol was not very successful in its implementation. After that, they decided on another agreement, that is Paris Agreement. So what is the difference between protocol and Paris Agreement? Both are part of the convention itself. Protocol or agreement and treaty both are same. Okay, protocol or agreement में क्या difference है? Protocol is much detailed. It will have a very detailed set of targets to be achieved and detailed set of actions to be taken. That is what is protocol. Okay, protocol is that is how we use the word protocol, right? So COVID protocol, you have to follow these rules, strictly follow करना है. That is what is protocol. Agreement, there is some liberty. There is a target you have to achieve. How you are going to do that, you can decide. There is some liberty. That is what is agreement. It is broader. That is the difference between Paris Agreement and Kyoto Protocol, right? Kyoto Protocol had a fixed targets. Paris Agreement, there is some liberty. You can decide how much you want to reduce. What do we call it as? INDCs. intended nationally determined contributions. Okay, थोड़ा बहुत liberty है. It is not very forceful like Kyoto. So that is the difference. You're getting the point? ठीक है? Fine. So let's start with the first topic. So in the class, I'll try to give you some background and I'll give you a brief idea about what is the topic, why it is in news, and what is the current issue. Okay, so listen to this very carefully and I would suggest you to make a brief note about this. Okay, so it is up to you whether you want to write it in the material itself or you make a separate notes, but एक brief notes तो बनाते जाओ. So that if you're just listening है ना, बाद में तो याद नहीं आएगा. So if you just make a note of brief note बना दिया तो revise करना easy रहेगा. The idea is to develop that broad framework. Okay, एक topic के ऊपर overall background क्या है, so अभी issue क्या है, okay, overall broad framework बनाने, and if there's any possible questions, so we can discuss that also. कैसे questions आ सकते हैं, and I also have few of the previous years questions related to these topics. कैसे questions आया था इसके ऊपर वो भी दिखा दूंगा. Okay, so we'll give you a broad idea. So but the suggestion is that you have to revise these topics on that day itself. आज जो भी cover किया है आज ही cover करना है, वापस जाके तब भी इसका फायदा होगा. Okay, if you think you will wait for the entire environment portion to complete, then you will revise. By the time when we complete all the environment topic, पूरा आपको mix हो जाते, कुछ याद ही नहीं रहेगा. ठीक है? So just go back and revise today itself. So that will be more helpful for you. So the first topic will go order, जो जिस order में दिया है उसी order में cover कर लेते हैं. The first topic is IPCC's 6th assessment report. This was also the first topic of last year PD365 too, and before last year too. There is a reason behind this. Okay, so I'll tell you. So we'll come to IPCC first. What is IPCC? Full form क्या है? Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC. So who established IPCC? WMO1, UNEP. ठीक है. It was set up by WMO and UNEP. In which year? 1988. Why? Why did they set it up? So in 1980s it was widely discussed that climate change is happening everywhere. The people were discussing that climate change is happening, हर जगह में हो रहा है, and many of them were declaring it's an emergency, बहुत urgent है, बहुत इसके ऊपर action लेना है, and few of them were very lethargic and they're saying no there is nothing urgent. Okay, so ऐसा कुछ urgent तो नहीं है, and few more were saying there is no climate change itself. Okay, people were saying there is no climate change itself, this is normal, this is how the climate is. So we had no scientific data to prove anything that climate change is happening. In order to provide for scientific assessment, है ना, we wanted an organization. We wanted an organization which can provide for scientific assessment whether the climate change is happening or not. So with that intention, WMO and UNEP established this. This is called as Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. This is not any body which will take action against climate change. It will not take any action. Action will be taken by whom? The respective governments, or under the convention, or under the protocol, ठीक है, or under Paris Agreement, the present है. This is purely research body. It will just do the research and it will give us the report. फिर वो report रख के जो करना है वो हमारे मर्जी है. Okay, it is not necessary that it has to take some action. It will not take any action at all. It is just a pure research body. It will do the research and give the reports. With that intention, they established this IPCC. So इतने सारे लोग बोल रहे थे. So कुछ लोग बोल रहे थे कि climate change हो ही नहीं रहा है. So we wanted to see whether it is really happening with proper scientific assessment and scientific data. It was established in 1980. Within 2 years itself, it came out with a report. The main report of this IPCC is called as the assessment report. इसको बोलते हैं assessment report. The first assessment report came in 1990. In that report itself, it said the climate change is happening. Okay, first point, climate change is happening. जो भी लोग बोल रहे थे climate change नहीं हो रहा है, सो उनके लिए तो बोल दिया कि नहीं, क्लाइमेट चेंज इज हैपनिंग, सी ये देखो, ये सारा रिपोर्ट है, ये सारा डेटा है, आप इसी को ही चेक कर लो. सेकेंड थिंग इज बहुत सारे लोग बोल रहे थे सो क्लाइमेट चेंज इज हैपनिंग, बट द क्लाइमेट चेंज इज नॉट हैपनिंग ड्यू टू ह्यूमन बीइंग्स, because there are many natural causes of climate change. What are the natural causes of climate change? बताइए. Volcanic eruptions, फॉरेस्ट फायर तो एंथ्रोपोजेनिक है, ठीक है, चलो अपने आप आ गया, मान लो दैट इज एंथ्रोपोजेनिक. ठीक है, मीथेन रिलीज फ्रॉम एनिमल लाइफ स्टॉक, ठीक है. सोलर सन स्टॉर्म है ना, सन स्टॉर्म क्या होता है? सोलर स्टॉर्म, सोलर फ्लेज, सडन आउटबर्स्ट ऑफ एनर्जी फ्रॉम द सन, ठीक है, पैकेट ऑफ फोटॉन्स मूविंग टुवर्ड्स इन ऑल द डायरेक्शन एंड दैट इज ब्रिंगिंग मोर एनर्जी, ठीक है. और नेचुरली हो सकता है, नेचुरली भी हो सकता है. नेचुरल वेरिएशन हैज ऑलवेज हैपेंड. Climate change is not, this is not the first climate change earth is seeing. Okay, we have seen multiple different times the climate change, बहुत बार हुआ है. And there have been many episodes of mass extinction too. What is a mass extinction? Where more than 70% of the life has gone extinct. 70% से ज़्यादा extinct हो जाता है ना, that event is called as mass extinction. Earth has seen 5 times mass extinction. The last mass extinction happened 65 million years ago by the end of Cretaceous, right? वो तो common है. अभी तक जो भी mass extinction हुआ है, every time there has been a climate change. Of the 5 times, 3 times it was due to global warming and 2 times due to global cooling. Temperature बहुत ज़्यादा नीचे भी हो सकते हैं, that is also climate change, right? बहुत ज़्यादा ऊपर भी हो सकते हैं. This time it is happening, this is due to human induced activities. Okay, उसका भी proof दे देंगे. So basically there are many people who are saying that the climate change can also happen through natural factors, and among them the most important factor is the variation in the amount of sunlight which is coming, the insolation. Insolation can be changed by various reasons. One, the insolation coming from the sun itself can change due to the various factors happening over there, or due to the change in the overall orbital period, orbital direction of the earth, right? वो भी तो change होते हैं, over a long period of time it changes, right? So at the same time, as it enters the earth, if there is too much of aerosols, particulate matter in the atmosphere, okay, there is less amount of sunlight will reach the surface, more amount gets reflected back, right? Or if there is more greenhouse gases, more carbon dioxide, more methane is there, the way it is there on the surface of Venus, that is also natural, right? So here also it can be released due to natural activities. If there is more, so there is more absorption of heat and that can rise the temperature. There are many factors. IPCC proved them also wrong. It said that with the probability of 95%, the climate change is induced due to human activities only. Okay, so climate change is due to human activities only, and that is majorly due to the emission of greenhouse gases. ये फर्स्ट रिपोर्ट में ही आ गया था, ठीक है. सो दैट वाज असेसमेंट रिपोर्ट. सो इनका मेजर काम है कि रिपोर्ट्स, ओके, बैठ के पढ़ाई करना है और रिपोर्ट देना है, बस. इनिशिएटिव तो जो काम करना है हमें करना है. द गवर्नमेंट हैव टू डू, गवर्नमेंट हैव टू वर्क. सो देयर आर टोटल ऑफ 3 टाइप्स ऑफ रिपोर्ट्स रिलीज्ड बाय IPCC. द फर्स्ट वन, द मेजर रिपोर्ट्स, दे आर assessment report. Okay, they are called as assessment report. Other than assessment report, we have special reports. And the third one is methodology reports. Assessment reports, special reports, and methodology reports. So as I told you earlier, assessment report is their major report. It is released at an interval of 5 to 6 years, once in 5 to 6 years. The first report, AR1, okay, AR1 came in 1990. And AR5 came in 2014. Okay, so AR5, the assessment report 5 came in 2014, and the latest one is AR6, which was released from 2021 2022 and now 2023. It is released in 3 parts. Okay, so 3 parts were released AR6 ka 2023. Sorry. So first and second part came in 2021 itself. Third part came in 2022, and in 2023 they will release a synthesis of all the 3 reports. पूरा समराइज बना के ओवरऑल क्या है वो दे देंगे 2023 में. That is yet to come. मतलब नेक्स्ट ईयर जो प्रिपेयर करेंगे उनके लिए भी यही फर्स्ट टॉपिक होगा. ठीक है. Fine. So that is what is assessment report. Assessment report is their major report through which they will give a detailed assessment of climate change, how much of climate change is happening, what are the reasons behind that, and what are the impacts we are going to face if this is going to continue. पूरा proper projection देते हैं and with a proper scientific backing with data. That is what is assessment report. Other than assessment report, जब भी खाली रहेंगे तब थोड़ा सा special reports भी लेके आएंगे लोग. ठीक है, बीच में तो थोड़ा बहुत खाली रहता है ना. So they will also bring some special report like this. The last time they brought these special reports was 2018. They came out with a special report of global warming of 1.5 degrees Celsius. If global warming happens at 1.5 degrees Celsius, what are the impacts? Okay, so like that. And the impact of climate change on land related specifically एक report था. And impact of ocean and cryosphere changing climate. Okay, 2019 में आया था. So climate change in cities तो अभी आया नहीं है, अभी आएगा. Okay, so this is yet to come. So like this, these are all special reports with a specific, simple रहता है, specific objective, targeted रहता है. And third type of reports are methodology reports. What are these reports basically? So as per UNFCCC, the countries are required to reduce the emissions. Right, Kyoto protocol के अंदर भी था, अभी Paris के अंदर भी है. You have to reduce the emissions. So on what basis we are going to measure the emissions? How much they have reduced, how much each country has reduced? We need proper methodology. That methodology is given by IPCC2. ये जो methodology report है ना, this is basically the methodology should be followed by all the countries while measuring the greenhouse gas emissions as well as the reduction of emissions, so that there is some uniformity. नहीं तो सब लोग बोलेंगे हम भी reduce किया है ना. So what is the proof? So they will develop their own methodology. To develop some common methodology, they come out with these reports. Yes, they will come there. चलो बता देते. Cryosphere refers to the area around the earth which is covered with snow. Okay, we have different zones on the earth. Lithosphere is land area, atmosphere is the gaseous area, air, hydrosphere is the water area, and cryosphere is the area covered with ice throughout the year. Throughout the year होना चाहिए permanent ice covered region, that is North Pole, South Pole and Third Pole. Third Pole is Himalayan Hindu Kush region. ठीक है. So other than this important information about IPCC, IPCC has also got Nobel Peace Prize for their efforts. It has got Nobel Peace Prize in the year 2007. 2007, I guess, yes. At that time, you know who was the chairman of IPCC? R.K. Pachauri. Okay, so he was one of the longest serving chairperson of IPCC. He was the chairman of IPCC from 2002 to 2015. It was during his tenure IPCC got Nobel Peace Prize. ठीक है. So अभी since it is in news और थोड़ा सा डिटेल में जाना है. Okay, we have to go in detail. ये तो बस इंट्रोडक्शन ही है, बैकग्राउंड है. How exactly they prepare their reports? Assessment report को कैसे prepare करता है? So I told you IPCC is just a research body. They just do the research. There are thousands of experts, scientists involved in preparation of these reports. There are thousands. From across the world, they participate here. Okay, so there are experts who and different authors who come out with their scientific findings along with the data. Okay, so there are thousands of people who work here, and there is a properly clearly defined hierarchy. There are reviewers, and above that there are governing councils. ऐसा बहुत सारा clearly बनाया है. Based on all this input, they prepare the data. So basically, IPCC itself is not doing any kind of research, on the field research, right? It itself is not doing, but using all the data collected from these panel of members, the experts, scientists and researchers and authors, okay, based on that they compile the report and then they give the report. Okay, so that is why they have 3 working group. There are a total of 3 working groups which have been divided. Okay, so all the authors and scientists, they have divided into 3 working groups, and 3 working groups releases 3 different reports, and finally they will compile it together and make a synthesis report. Okay, so before last year 2021 में 2 वर्किंग ग्रुप 1 वर्किंग ग्रुप 2 दोनों का रिलीज हुआ था. 2022 में वर्किंग ग्रुप 3 का रिलीज हुआ है, एंड इन 2023 इट इज एक्सपेक्टेड टू कम आउट विद ए सिंथेसिस रिपोर्ट. सो टुगेदर इट इज कॉल्ड एज असेसमेंट रिपोर्ट 6, AR6. ठीक है, सो जो इस साल का रिपोर्ट है वो क्या बोलते हैं? सो एनीथिंग इंपॉर्टेंट फ्रॉम द अर्लियर रिपोर्ट्स? जो वर्किंग ग्रुप 1 वर्किंग ग्रुप 2 में कुछ याद है जो लास्ट ईयर पढ़ा था? बताइए. यस, वेरी गुड. 1.07. So the earlier last year's report had said that the total global warming right now is 1.09 degrees Celsius. Okay, compared to the pre-industrial levels, the present global warming is 1.09 degrees Celsius. In that, 1.07 degrees Celsius is due to anthropogenic activities, that is human induced greenhouse gas emissions, and 0.02 degrees Celsius is due to natural activities. जो लोग बोल रहे थे naturally हो रहा है ना, तो वो कारण से 0.02 डिग्रीज हुआ है. And the earlier report has also said that we will reach 1.5 degrees Celsius by 2040 itself. Okay, we will reach 1.5 degrees Celsius of global warming by 2040 itself. इसके अलावा बहुत डिटेल में बात हुआ था. ओके, सो व्हाट इज़ द प्रेजेंट लेवल ऑफ सी लेवल राइज, व्हाट इज़ द प्रेजेंट लेवल ऑफ एसिडिफिकेशन, व्हाट इज़ द फ्यूचर लेवल्स. इंडिया के ऊपर भी बहुत सारा फाइंडिंग्स आया था लास्ट ईयर का. सो यू कैन यूज़ दैट फ्रॉम द प्रीवियस मटेरियल and that will be very helpful for your mains. Okay, mains, while talking about the climate change, you have to bring all these data. For this year, whatever the outcome of this year's report, okay, let's just briefly discuss this. So this year's report says that if we want to reduce the global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius, why 1.5 degrees Celsius? This is the target fixed under Paris Agreement. The Paris Agreement aims to limit the global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. Okay? So if we want to reduce the limit the global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius, we have to peak the greenhouse gas emissions before 2025. Okay, we have to peak the greenhouse gas emissions before 2025. What do you mean by peaking greenhouse gas emissions? मैक्सिमम एमिशन, उसके बाद में जो भी ग्रीन हाउस गैस एमिशन होगा वो कम होते जाना है. ओके, सो मैक्सिमम एमिशन ऑफ द एंटायर वर्ल्ड वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट. द एंटायर वर्ल्ड शुड रीच इट्स मैक्सिमम एमिशन बाय 2025. आफ्टर दैट इट शुड बी डिक्रीजिंग. ऐसा नहीं है कि जीरो एमिशन है, जीरो एमिशन अलग है. जीरो एमिशन विल नेवर बी एबल टू अचीव. ठीक है, सो व्हाट वी आर सेइंग, मैक्सिमम रिलीज हो गया, उसके बाद में जो भी रिलीज हुआ है इट इज लेस देन व्हाट वाज रिलीज्ड बिफोर 2025. Even if you consider it to be 2025, so it should be less than 2025. That is the meaning of peaking. The latest report says that we should peak the greenhouse gas emissions before 2025, and by 2030 we should limit the greenhouse gas emissions. We should reduce the greenhouse gas emissions by 43%. Then only we will be able to limit the global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. This best scenario, if we are able to achieve, will be able to limit the global warming to 1.5 degree Celsius. So this is being mentioned as C1 pathway. This is what is called as C1 pathway. So what is this C1 pathway? The IPCC gives 8 pathways, 8 projections from C1 to C8. If the entire world comes together, पूरा उनको realization हो गया है ना, so ज्ञानोदय हो गया, एंड दे ऑल ऑफ देम गेट अप एंड दे से चलो कुछ करते हैं, चलो कुछ रिड्यूस करते हैं, ऐसे बोल के पूरा के पूरा रिड्यूस करना कोशिश कर दिया, दैट इज द बेस्ट, दैट इज व्हाट इज C1. If we don't do anything and we are just going in the same path, that is C8. Okay, it has given total of 8 pathways. If we follow these, what is the future? When we will achieve 1.5 degree, when we will achieve 2 degree, ऐसा पूरा detailed projections दिया है. The best possibility is C1 pathway. For that, we have to peak before 2025 and we have to cut the GHG emissions by 43% before 2030. ठीक है, एक और पाथवे भी दिया है, अगर ठीक है 1.5 नहीं हो पा रहा है, सो 2 डिग्री तक लिमिट करना है. सो वी हैव टू, देयर ऑल्सो वी हैव टू पीक बिफोर 2025, बट रिडक्शन इज स्लाइटली लेसर, दैट इज 27% by 2030. And we have to reach net zero by 2050 for C1 pathway, and for 2 degree Celsius 2070 तक अचीव कर सकते हैं. एंड मीथेन भी बहुत रिड्यूस करना है, वी हैव टू रिड्यूस मीथेन बाय 34%. वाई मीथेन को इतना एम्फसाइज करके बताए हैं? Yes, that is a term. The lifespan of methane is lesser than carbon dioxide. Methane will be there in the atmosphere for a maximum of 10 to 12 years only. If we target methane and if we reduce it, we will be able to see the result in the next 10 years itself. Right? And it has a higher potential than carbon dioxide too. It absorbs more heat than carbon dioxide. That is why methane target करना बहुत, मतलब उसका बहुत effective रहेगा. Yes, it should be 2005. Yes. ठीक है. So you get the point? मीथेन का, why they are targeting methane? मीथेन के ऊपर बहुत सारा एक और टॉपिक भी है, तभी बात करेंगे. Now there are many initiatives. They are targeting methane because methane is a short-lived gas. It is a short-lived gas. Yes. So what do you mean by net zero? Net zero का मतलब क्या है? The amount of carbon dioxide which is released by the globe as a whole is also observed by the globe as a whole. Okay, जितना कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड रिलीज हो रहा है, एटलीस्ट उतना तो ऑब्जर्व होना चाहिए, और ज्यादा भी ऑब्जर्व कर सकते हैं. Okay, so net zero, the position is equal absorption. If we are able to absorb more, that is what is negative CO2 emissions. When we say negative CO2 emissions, that means we are absorbing more than what we are releasing. ठीक है? What is the present level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere? You know? Any guesses? 418 ppm, parts per million. Okay, so, and this is the highest ever in the last 8 lakh years. In the last 8 lakh years, this is the highest, or maybe in much older times too, because we were able to calculate only for the last 8 lakh years. उसके पहले वाला कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड कॉन्सेंट्रेशन हमें पता नहीं था, पता नहीं है. सो तब तक कैसे कैलकुलेट किया? हाउ डिड वी कैलकुलेट द carbon dioxide level for the last 8 lakh years? How did we calculate the last carbon dioxide level for the last 8 lakh years? We have the evidence, direct evidence is there. Not rocks, it's the glaciers itself, the ice. We call it as ice core study. Ice core study. So we have huge amount of ice which is there in Antarctica, which is stored for a long period of time. Okay, for like thousands of years it is still there. We are drilling over there in Antarctica and taking out the ice from the lowermost part. Okay, so and that ice contain air trapped in that. During the ice formation, whatever the atmospheric air is there, that gets trapped, and that is still stored. And in that we can clearly assess the amount of carbon dioxide. That is what is called as ice core study. So using ice core study, we were able to estimate the amount of carbon dioxide which was there for the last 8 lakh years, and it was never above 300 parts per million. 300, 310 was the highest. Okay, it was never above that, and now right now we are running at 418 parts per million. Okay. And this is as per the latest report, the sectoral share. This can also be your question. Okay, you need to remember this. In terms of the overall weightage of different sectors in greenhouse gas emissions, energy accounts for the highest, number one. Okay, so you don't have to remember the proportion, but at least you should remember the order. 1, 2, 3, 4, you should remember. Okay, number one, energy sector. Number two, industry. Number three, agriculture. Number four, transportation. Number five, domestic consumption, buildings. Fine. No, that is not pathway 8. So it is somewhere in between. Okay, it is somewhere in between. Pathway 8 is mentioned here. So pathway 8 is we are not going to do anything. We are not going to improvise anything. We will just go whatever we are doing. In that case, it is said that the global warming will be 3.2 degrees Celsius by 20. By the end of this century. We'll be reaching 3.42 degrees Celsius by the end of this century, if we keep the business as usual. Okay, this is one of the questions asked in 2020. So almost on the same topic. Right, answer is A. So more than answer, you should see the pattern of question. That is important, so that we can predict what kind of questions are possible here. The social cost of carbon is the long-term damage caused by a ton of carbon dioxide emission in a given year. Okay. So other than this, there are few other general points of this report. So it is very easy to predict. Okay, so it says that every decade is releasing more amount of greenhouse gas than the previous decade. That is obvious. Every decade, what we are seeing in the recent times, last 4-5 decades, has been warmer than the previous decades. Right? So like that, ये सब तो है ही report के अंदर है. So you can just go through that. So any doubts here? Too technical. So not required this detail. Maybe you may have to read it as part of your science and technology. Okay, so for environment it is not required. Anything else? Yes, we can relate all this erratic behavior of the Indian climate condition, the result of climate change. So whether it is the last year high heat waves in London, or before last year heat dome situation in Canada, USA. So all of this we can clearly say it is the result of global warming and climate change. Okay, so we can definitely say it should be due to climate change. So what causes that? Climate change, तो ठीक है, it is causing the melting of glaciers, it is increasing the temperature of polar areas. Will it cause such high intensity heat waves? Is it possible? It is due to weakening of the global system of circulations. The global warming causes the weakening of global system of circulations, like jet streams, like ocean currents. Okay, there is a very fine balance in the global distribution of temperature, pressure conditions, and this fine balance is disturbed once these jet streams are disturbed, once these oceanic circulations are disturbed, and that will cause catastrophic impacts which we have not realized, or which will take a long period of time even to understand. Right? Okay. Next topic, methane emission. So there is a report regarding methane emission. We'll come to that. Okay, we'll start from the basic. What about methane? Methane, basic simple formula CH4. So you might have studied about methane in schools. Okay. It is the simplest way is the hydrogen and carbon composition. You know, this is what is present in natural gas, the methane. It is easily combustible, and it is colorless, odorless gas. Right? It is colorless and odorless gas. So even natural gas is also odorless. Okay. So but we add the smell just to predict the leakage, LPG, right? Otherwise it is totally colorless and odorless. So as I told you earlier, it is a short-lived gas. So approximately 10 to 12 years. Okay, sometimes in some situation it can get extended up to 20 years. Average lifespan in the atmosphere is 10 to 12 years. After that, what happens? After that, it gets disintegrated by natural process. Okay, natural process will disintegrate into its elements. So the lifetime is very short, but it has a higher greenhouse potential, very high level greenhouse potential than carbon. Okay, so what do you mean by greenhouse potential? The amount of heat a gas can absorb in comparison to the amount of heat absorbed by carbon dioxide. Among all the greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide has the least greenhouse potential. ठीक है? Still बेचारा उसको इतना डांटते हम. So why? No, there are many gases which will stay in the atmosphere for much longer. Only methane is having lesser lifetime than carbon dioxide. Rest all other, they live for longer period of time. It is the proportion. Compared to all other greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide has the highest proportion. It is the carbon dioxide which is released most commonly in most of the combustion process. Even if you burn the fuel at 100% efficiency, carbon dioxide will come out definitely. That is the obvious product. You know, when you burn hydrocarbon, it releases carbon dioxide and water. You can reduce other impurities. You can reduce all other air pollutants, but you cannot remove carbon dioxide. वो तो release होगा ही होगा. There is huge quantity of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere that we have released over a period of time. It is the overall proportion that is very, very high. So that is why its contribution is also very, very high towards the greenhouse gas. However, the other gases, including methane, what are the other gases other than methane? There are a total of 6 important greenhouse gases. Okay, let's write it down. What are the 6 important greenhouse gases? Carbon dioxide, methane. Then? Okay, other than water vapor? HFC? Sulfur hexafluoride? Perfluorocarbon? One more important. Nitrous oxide. Okay, third one, nitrous oxide. Number 1, CO2. Number 2, methane. Number 3, nitrous oxide. Remember, nitrous, not nitric. Nitric is different, nitrous is different. Nitric is NO, nitrous is N2O. Okay, nitrous oxide is greenhouse gas, nitric oxide is ozone depleting substance. Right, nitrous oxide, number 3. Number 4, HFC, hydrofluorocarbon. Number 5, PFC, perfluorocarbon. Number 6, SF6, sulfur hexafluoride. These are the 6 gases which I have given in order. This is the order of greenhouse potential also. Lowest potential is carbon dioxide. Okay, then comes methane, then comes nitrous oxide, then HFC, PFC, and then SF6. SF6 has the highest potential. Their comparison is in terms of thousands. It can absorb nearly 1000 times than compared to carbon dioxide. Okay? But the lifetime is different. Least lifetime is methane. Okay, then carbon dioxide, then nitrous oxide, then perfluorocarbon, then HFC, then SF6. Okay, so ऐसे कुछ order है. So these gases, these halo gases, they are having higher lifetime and higher potential too, but their proportion is very, very less. Okay, so no need to worry about that. What about water vapor? Water vapor, of course, is a greenhouse gas. Water vapor is a greenhouse gas, but we cannot target it. If you reduce water vapor, hydrological cycle gets disturbed, right? So we cannot reduce water vapor. So rather we can reduce methane. Methane is lifespan order: methane, carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide. हाँ, सबसे हायर perfluorocarbon है, then HFC, SF6 and PFC. Okay, after nitrous oxide, हाँ नहीं, HFC, SF6, then PFC. एक बार verify कर लेना. Just check this. I'm a bit confused about the last 3. ठीक है. So other than this, somebody was saying CFC also. CFC is also greenhouse gas, but we don't have to worry about CFC because we have already reduced CFC. That is through Montreal Protocol. Okay, we have reduced to to its limit. मतलब low सबसे lower level पे लेके आ गया. ठीक है. So that is why we are targeting, because its lifetime is very, very less and potential is higher, and if we target it, we will see the results very easily, right? So there are many initiatives to reduce the overall methane production. Methane initiative, jo last year Glasgow also saw few of the initiatives to control methane. Okay, so that is all there. That is about methane. So what are the other short-lived atmospheric pollutants which are also capable of causing global warming? Black carbon. Okay, there is also black carbon, that is also greenhouse, global warming. It has global warming potential. It is a greenhouse gas. It is also short-lived. Okay, black carbon is produced through incomplete combustion. Okay, incomplete combustion, particularly in some of the low efficient engines. Okay, low efficient burning process. Okay, so that is about methane. So what is this Global Methane Assessment 2030 baseline report, for which this is in news? Okay, that is why it is in news. So there is a report which is released by Climate and Clean Air Coalition in association with UNEP. Okay, Climate and Clean Air Coalition in association with UNEP. Okay, we know about these two. We'll talk about this. So otherwise, what is the report? Report के बारे में बताओ. The report gives an overall assessment of the methane level in the atmosphere and its implication, how much it is changing, and its implication in the context of this global methane pledge. Okay, global methane pledge के लिए ये assessment किया था. So that's why we need to know about global methane pledge. What is this global methane pledge? So it is a pledge taken at Glasgow. Okay, so that is COP 26 in the year 2021. In the last year COP, many of the countries, they wanted to reduce, they wanted to contribute towards reducing the methane emissions in the world, and they formed a grouping, and that grouping is called as the Global Methane Pledge, and the target is to reduce 30% methane emission by 2030. To reduce 30% by 2030. So many countries participated and India is not part of it. Okay, so why India is not part of it? Because this is not our priority right now. So major emission of methane comes in India from rice fields as well as from cattle. Okay, cattle sources. Okay, that is not our present target because it will affect the livelihood. We have many other issues to handle right now, so we don't want to worry about it right now. Okay, that's why we are not part of it. And there was also another pledge which was taken to reduce the deforestation, to stop the deforestation by 2030 at Glasgow. Even that also India was not part of it. वहाँ पर भी हमने बोल दिया कि अभी immediately हमारा priority नहीं है. ठीक है? So here they said, so we will reduce जितना भी लोग आए आ जाए. So I think nearly 140 countries participated in this. 140 or 100 countries participated in this, and they said we will reduce 30% of methane emission by 2030. For that they want assessment every year, and to assess that, so this report is being released. Okay, so details of the report is not important. Okay, like this you will find many reports every year. Who is releasing this? That is important. Who is releasing this? CCAC, that is Climate and Clean Air Coalition in association with UNEP. So now tell me, who established this UNEP? United Nations, the part of United Nations. Which year? 1972. 1972. 72 itself. 72. 72 itself. So it is the result of Stockholm Convention. Sorry, Stockholm Conference, not convention. Stockholm Conference. Okay, so आगे है Stockholm Conference, वहाँ पर बात करते हैं. So it was established as a result of Stockholm Conference. ठीक है. What about this CCAC? It was established in the year of 2012. With the objective of treating short-lived climate pollutants. With the objective of treating short-lived climate pollutants. To reduce the global warming as well as to reduce the air pollution. It is a joint initiative of few of the groups. It's not common across the world, है ना? So सारे members तो participate नहीं करते. Only few of the groups. Major members: USA, India, Bangladesh, Sweden, and Mexico. And UNEP is also part of this. That is Climate and Clean Air Coalition. Okay, major members: USA, India, Bangladesh, Sweden, Mexico. So it is working towards overall reducing the emission of these kind of short-lived gas as well as to reduce the air quality, air pollutants in the world. Okay, that is working. So in association with that, UNEP, together they have released this report, that is Global Methane Assessment. So in this context, there is also another important organization related to methane. Okay, it is given in the material, you can see that. So its name is International Methane Emission Observatory. It is an initiative of UNEP. It is an initiative of UNEP. It was established in the year 2021. So why this is important? This is the implementing partner of this Global Methane Pledge. Global Methane Pledge was taken at Glasgow with a target of 30 by 30. Okay, 30% reduction by 2030. So in order to achieve that, the implementing agency is International Methane Emission Observatory. ठीक है. So और details material में है. Just go through that. You can go through that. So जो important prelims के context में जहाँ पर questions आएगा वही मैं highlight कर रहा हूँ. I think you got the gist of it. So about methane is important. उसके ऊपर तो already questions आ चुका है बहुत बार. Okay, this is I think last year question. What is the answer? Rice. Simple. So how methane is produced from rice? Stubble burning also produces methane, but otherwise also methane is produced. So it is due to flood irrigation method. Flood irrigation method. So for rice cultivation, what we follow is flood irrigation. We keep the water standing, stagnant water. In that we'll transplant the rice saplings, right? So why do they do that? उसको कैसे क्यों करते हैं? To reduce weed. Okay, that is the method which will reduce the weeds. That is why they follow flood irrigation method. But when you keep this rice sapling in stagnant water for a long period of time, at the roots, the decomposition releases methane. Okay, there are few bacterial activity which happens and that releases methane. And India, one of the major producer of rice, and in huge area we follow this flood irrigation method. We are one of the largest producer of methane through rice. India में सबसे one of the major source is rice fields. Second, cattles. Okay, so the gastrointestinal tracts of these cattles that produces methane. Okay, so one of the largest source of methane is cattles. Okay. So this is the overall different sources at the world level. At the world level, highest amount of methane comes from wetlands. How come? Wetlands are basically the water bodies which are rich in organic content. उसमें organic content ज़्यादा रहता है. That is what wetlands. That is how wetlands are different from lakes. Lakes lower organic content, higher water content. Wetlands, along with water, there is also organic content, biomass, and that decomposing biomass also releases methane. Okay. So other than that, fossil fuel extraction, livestock, landfill and agriculture waste, natural geological seeds, rice cultivation. India में rice cultivation बहुत ज़्यादा है. Burning of plant matter, that is our stubble burning. That also produces methane. Termites and other wild animals, उनका भी जो biological process है, that also releases methane. Actually, the issue is about the data. So we don't have proper data to assess which one is highest, which one is lowest. So usually it is rice. Okay, particularly for a developing country and a tropical country, rice cultivation should be highest. So all this data which we have available for the greenhouse gases, it's all at the international level only. So next topic, ocean acidification and Arctic ice. You want break? So let's take break. So how is the speed? Speed तो अभी pick up हो रहा है. और fast कर सकते हैं. ठीक है. The next topic is ocean acidification and Arctic ice. Okay. So let's briefly talk about Arctic region. This is our Arctic region. So the Arctic region refers to the entire region beyond Arctic Circle. Okay, the 66.5 degree north latitude, that is Arctic Circle. And this is what is called as the Arctic region, which is different from the Arctic Ocean. Arctic Ocean is the water body in this region. Arctic region includes the surrounding mass too, right? And this is where we have the north geographical pole as well as the magnetic pole. Magnetic north pole is also here. So there are a total of 8 countries which are located here, and all these 8 countries have formed a grouping called as Arctic Council. Okay, we have to remember these 8 names. From here, USA, Alaska comes under Arctic region. Okay. So number 2, Canada. Very large area of this Canada comes under Arctic. Number 3, Denmark. Okay, Greenland comes under Denmark. Okay, number 3, Denmark. Number 4, Iceland. Okay, Iceland just a margin touches it. Okay, so Iceland is also part of this. So number 5, 5, 6, 7 is Norway, Sweden, Finland. Okay, ये दोनों तीन country है. These 3 countries. This is 5, 6, 7. And 8 is the largest of all, that is Russia. So it covers approximately half of the entire Arctic region. Okay, you can see almost half. That is Russia. A huge part of this Arctic region comes under Russia. So that is in brief about Arctic region. Now, what is the significance of this Arctic region? So tell me the significance without talking about climate change. There is huge amount of minerals. So particularly energy resources which are trapped here. Okay, so other than economic resource, क्या था? So cold waters are rich in nutrients. It supplies good amount of nutrients for the marine life. Then sea route can be used for navigation in this region. Kelp forest, ठीक है, और ocean currents. Very good. The entire ocean currents of the world are depend upon the polar regions. So first of all, why there is ocean currents? Why the currents move from tropical region to polar regions? Because there is low temperature over there. It is the temperature difference which causes these currents to move from one part to another. If the temperature is same, it will not move. That is why global warming is decreasing the intensity of these ocean currents. It helps in global circulation of oceanic water. So that helps in distribution of temperature across the globe. We have near to the tropical region high temperature, near to the polar regions low temperature. Why? Because of difference in the intensity of the sunlight. Okay, here there is higher intensity, there is lower intensity. So if this situation continues, there is more heat accumulates here, and continuously the polar region starts to become colder. Their temperature drops much more to lower levels. Here the heat temperature rises to much more higher levels. There is they required a mechanism to transport this excess heat towards the low temperature regions. There are 2 major mechanisms. One is the oceanic circulation, ocean currents as well as thermohaline circulation. Second one is the planetary wind system, wind circulation. Okay, they move from tropical to polar region. That is because they are under the influence of this temperature difference, because of the temperature difference, right? Okay, other than this, what are the other significance? Other than climate change पे आते हैं. Fossil fuels, ठीक है. अच्छा, the preservation of fossils, ठीक है, very good. Then it adds to diversity. Then ठीक है, वही climate change पे आते हैं. Other than that, any other significance? Discoveries in Himalayas. ओके फाइन, ठीक है. क्रायोस्फीयर यही है, यही जो सिग्निफिकेंस है, इसी का ही बात कर रहे हैं, क्रायोस्फीयर. अदर देन दिस, ठीक है. सो क्लाइमेट चेंज छोड़ दो, क्लाइमेट चेंज के अलावा बताइए. लंबर इंडस्ट्री अराउंड द Arctic, not exactly Arctic. That is Siberian club. Polar vortex, very good. Polar vortex is also there. So what is polar vortex? The continuously circulating cold air around the polar region, which is held there trapped by the strongly moving jets. Okay, jet stream traps it over there. That keeps the entire cold air trapped over there. Okay. And other than that, most important, albedo. There is a huge amount of snow covered surface which reflects the sun's light, right? So it is major part of the reflection. So if there is no snow covered surface, all the sun's light will be absorbed by the land, and that causes imbalance. The overall temperature of the land will rise if there is no ice covered surface. So just because there are many other impacts, so most important impact is due to the presence of snow covered surface, the sunlight reflection is higher. Okay, so overall average temperature of the entire globe will be lower. So if there is no snow covered surface, all the sunlight will get absorbed by the land. The temperature of the land rises. It has a huge role to play in heat balance, heat budget of the Earth's surface. So now tell me, what is the role of this in in case of climate change? So first of all, how it gets impacted due to climate change? How Arctic region gets impacted due to climate change? Most common impact, the global warming and climate change will melt the glaciers, will melt the ice. Okay, even the last working group report of IPCC AR6 has clearly said that, so by 2040 itself, we will have the entire Arctic Ocean ice free during summer. The entire Arctic Ocean will be devoid of any kind of ice during summers. Okay? Large scale melting of ice. That is one important factor which will happen due to global warming. Other than that, rise in the sea level, because all this water gets added to the ocean and it causes rise in the sea level. Then opening up of new trade routes. Okay, so particularly during the winters, the entire region is frozen, है ना? So this entire northern region, they have a very limitation of movement. Transportation ज़्यादा नहीं होगा. So now they will have better movement, better transportation, better trade routes. Then what? Yes, yes. So there is more land area available. Resource extraction will be easier. There is huge amount of fossil fuels, gases, petroleum, gas hydrates also. More area for agriculture. ठीक है. और disturbance of this atmospheric circulation as well as the oceanic circulation, right? पहले बात है कि atmospheric circulations will greatly get impacted because they are all driven by the pressure pattern. We have polar easterlies coming from 90 degrees to 60 degrees because there is a low temperature, right? The low temperature over there creates high pressure that causes the winds to move away. That results in polar easterlies. Polar easterlies gets disturbed, and then jet streams gets disturbed, right? So jet streams are majorly caused by the temperature difference between the different regions, right? So jet stream gets weakened and jet stream starts to meander. When the jet stream starts to meander in its path, that causes the outbreak of polar vortex, and that causes heat dome effect, right? Extreme heat temperature, extreme cold temperatures, all of this, that is due to weakening of jet stream. So that is disturbance of global atmospheric patterns. Yes, it can. So that is debatable whether it will increase or decrease, but overall intensity will increase. It makes it unpredictable. Okay. So another important, oceanic circulations will get impacted. AMOC will get impacted. What is AMOC? Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation. Okay, Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, that gets weakened. The entire Atlantic Ocean में जो circulation है, that is called as AMOC, right? So that gets weakened and that will cause huge other catastrophic impact. उसका तो अलग ही कहानी शुरू होता है फिर. Not geographical pole, but magnetic pole may get impacted. Magnetic pole तो वैसे ही continuously movement में है. Geographical pole तो impact नहीं होगा. Magnetic pole may get impacted because 100% clarity नहीं magnetic pole का movement किस factors के ऊपर dependent है. Is not. वो तो regularly होता है. It is a regular phenomena. Biodiversity definitely. The entire Arctic ecosystem collapses because everything is dependent upon the ice. Right? The life which is there in Arctic Ocean, it is dependent upon the ice over there. Okay, including polar bears. Polar bears will go extinct. Right? Polar bear is the top carnivore. So it is the largest land carnivorous. Right? It is the top carnivore in the entire ecosystem. So once the top carnivores falls, the entire ecosystem collapses. Yes, methane emission also increases. ठीक है, ये सब तो impacts है, impacts of Arctic Ocean on climate change. ठीक है, so this is just general discussion. Is there any doubts here? This topic which we are going to talk is about acidification. Some of the recent research has pointed that the global warming in Arctic Ocean has also contributing towards ocean acidification. And that is having a rapid increase in the ocean acidification in polar regions. Okay, so we'll discuss that. What is ocean acidification? Yes, basically decrease in pH. Decrease in pH is called as increase in acidity. Acidity is when the pH value decreases. When pH value is around 7, approximately 7 is neutral, above 7 is basic, below 7 is acidic. So normally ocean water is basic, approximately around 8, right? So because it contains too much of salts, तो होगा. During the normal process, okay, so it is very important to understand this. During the normal process, when there is not much of acidity is there, the ocean water contains carbonate ions. What is carbonate ions? CO3. Carbonate ions are CO3. These carbonate ions are consumed by the marine organisms continuously. They use these carbonate ions to make the shell around their body. Okay, for example, coral reefs. Okay, that entire reefs are built by absorbing these carbonate ions from the water. So in the normal condition, there is abundant carbonate ions are present, and there is abundant level of the ocean organisms are also found here. The carbon dioxide which is present in the atmosphere gets dissolved easily in the water. The water has that capacity to absorb the carbon dioxide directly वो surface से ले लेता है. So what happens to this carbon dioxide when it gets absorbed in the water? Okay, CO2 plus H2O is H2CO3. That is what is called as carbonic acid. Right? So it is called as carbonic acid. It's a very weak acid. However, this is not a very stable compound. In the water, it gets disintegrated into hydrogen ion plus HCO3. HCO3 is bicarbonate ions. Okay, it is bicarbonate. H2CO3 था, एक H release हो गया, बाकी बचा है HCO3. This HCO3 cannot be absorbed by this marine organism. Marine organism require just CO3. ठीक है? Bicarbonate ions cannot be absorbed by them. And this excess hydrogen which is releasing is what is adding the acidity. It is because of this excess hydrogen, the acidity level increases. Jitna hydrogen ions रहता है, free hydrogen, that is increasing the acidity level. It is reducing the pH. But normal levels, the carbon dioxide is not that great in the atmosphere. The absorption is also not that great, and there is a balance in the overall amount of carbonate ions which are produced in the ocean water. However, if at all the carbon dioxide proportion in the atmosphere increases, there's more absorption which happens. The water absorbs more amount of carbon dioxide and more amount of carbonic acid is formed. and this disintegrates to produce more amount of hydrogen ion and more amount of carbonate ions, bicarbonate ions. What happens to this hydrogen ions? This will take this carbonate ions which are freely there in the water. It will consume this before these organisms can take it, and it will convert it into bicarbonate ions. When there is higher number of hydrogen ions are present in the water, it will absorb this carbonate ions and convert into bicarbonate ions, and it will reduce the availability for the marine organisms. Right? So that is how it is impacting the marine organisms. So how do we observe that? The shells of these marine organisms become thinner. The entire marine organisms also become smaller. ये देखो यहाँ पर बड़ा है, यहाँ पर छोटा हो गया, साइज भी छोटा हो गया, उनका shells भी बहुत thin हो जाता है. And gradually many of them may go extinct, many of them get perished, the biodiversity decreases, right? It has a catastrophic impact. This is the impact of acidification. This is what is called as acidification, right? Impact of acidification on the marine organisms. Other than that, there are many other impacts of acidification. ठीक है? So overall ecosystem imbalance हो जाएगा, conditions which are usually favorable and stable for the life, that will not be there. So the recent report is saying that the global warming is causing acidification of the Arctic Ocean at a very, very fast rate. It is said that it is happening at 4 times than the normal. Okay. That is the report. Exactly कौन research किया है ये सब तो जरूरी नहीं है. This is a question where you get a static question inspired from current affairs. Okay, question can come about acidification, a question can come about why acidification is happening and what are the other impacts of the global warming or climate change on Arctic Ocean. Now, why the acidification is happening at a faster rate? It is overall the part of the process called as Arctic amplification. What is Arctic amplification? Normal regions, yes. See, global warming is happening everywhere. So the last IPCC report has said that the overall rise in the temperature is 1.09 degrees Celsius, right? But that 1.09 degrees Celsius is not uniform everywhere. ऐसा नहीं कि हर जगह में 1.09 degree rise हुआ है. It is the average of the entire globe. It is said that in Arctic region the global warming is very, very fast. It is happening at a very fast rate. बहुत high rate में चल रहा है. So till recently we were thinking that it is happening at 2 times the rate. The last IPCC report has said that it is happening at 4 times the rate. If global warming is causing 1 degree rise in other parts, here it is causing 4 degree rise. Okay? Why? That process is amplification. Okay? That faster warming is amplification. Why? What is the reason behind this? Albedo. The impact of albedo is very much necessary here, right? So because earlier the entire region was covered with snow, now because of faster snow melting, the snow is melting and below the snow there is dark ocean water. Ocean water is dark. Its albedo is very less. From 90% albedo, you are suddenly replacing it with 10% albedo. 10% albedo means 90% absorption. It absorbs more heat than the other regions. So that is why its temperature is rising rapidly. Its temperature is rising rapidly. It is said that nearly 30% of human released carbon dioxide is absorbed by the ocean waters. Ocean waters have very high capacity to absorb this carbon dioxide. So earlier there was huge amount of carbon dioxide in the Earth's atmosphere during the initial time of Earth's evolution. There was huge amount of carbon dioxide the way it is there in Venus right now. Earth also had a huge amount of carbon dioxide. What happened to all that carbon dioxide? It all got absorbed in the ocean water through continuous precipitation. Another important idea which is also related to Arctic Ocean is zombie ice or doomed ice. Zombie ice or doomed ice. See, in Arctic Ocean, it is the melting and freezing of ice is very common. It is very common. So during the winters, usually this entire region up to Arctic Circle is totally frozen. Okay, usually up to this entire region is totally frozen. मान लो यहाँ पर ऐसे. During the summer, so right now it is this much. Earlier we used to have this big, इतना ज़्यादा था even during summer. Now it has shrinked. So it is said that this size decreases and gradually totally disappears by 2040 in summers. The ice melting is happening at a very fast rate, right? So winter May it will freeze again. Winter May it freezes, summer it will melt. So there are many glaciers in the surrounding region on the land as well as in the central part of this, which will not melt completely even during the summers. Right now we have many such regions where the ice is there throughout the year. Only a part of this, okay, let's say in this region there was a huge glacier. Yahan par let's say there is a huge glacier. This will not melt completely. Only a part of it will melt in the surrounding region and it will refreeze it back during the winters. This is a normal process. ये तो होता ही है. But the global warming is happening at such a fast rate. इतना ज़्यादा हो रहा है. Only the core part is not melting. The entire surrounding part is melting at a very fast pace and they are not refreezing back. The entire earlier glacier was melting and refreezing back. Now, not the entire part is refreezing back in the next winter because winter में भी ज़्यादा temperature नहीं decrease नहीं हो रहा है. So overall global warming की वजह से, right? So because of this entire peripheral area, which is just attached and it is melting, but it is not refreezing back. This area is what is called as zombie ice. That means it may collapse anytime. Okay, it may collapse anytime, it may completely melt anytime. Such kind of ice, that is why it is called as doomed ice. मतलब इसका कहानी तो खत्म हो गया, कभी भी ये मर जाएगा ऐसे वाला type. There are many such glaciers parts which are called as zombie ice, which is not getting fed by the original glacier. There is this original glacier which used to continuously feed it and refreeze it. Now it is not feeding it. Right? That is called as zombie ice or doomed ice, which is still attached to the thicker areas of ice but no longer getting fed by the glacier. So it is difficult to say so. Overall volume will not remain same. Ice has more volume, water volume is less, and more water gets added to the oceans when ice is melting. It has happened. Historically, it has happened everywhere. Okay, it has happened. So there have been many periods where during the global warming, the sea level was much higher than the present, where the melting had gone much higher levels. The global temperature has risen to much higher levels. That time there were very, very limited amount of glaciers. That time sea level was very high. Many of the times the sea level was very low. That is common. नहीं नहीं ऐसा ही नाम है. Zombie referring to the basically dead. Okay, it is dead ice. It is no more rejuvenating. It is not going to refreeze again. जितना melt हो रहा है वो होते जाएगा फिर खत्म हो जाएगा बस. What is India in Arctic? India in Arctic. So do we have a station in Arctic? So where? In which part? Norway. Here near this Svalbard. Near this part, we have a station. It is called as Himadri. Okay, in this part. So we started our research program in the year 2007, the Arctic Research Program. And we have a permanently established station in Svalbard, which is called as Himadri. So we also have in the same region Indark. What is Indark? The Indian Ocean Arctic Research Facility. Okay, so it is below the water. Okay, so it is very freezing, very cold conditions, right? So there the research is happening. It is Indark. And I told you this is Arctic Council. There are 8 countries, and this is totally exclusive for those countries which have their territory within Arctic Circle only. So no other country can be part of this Arctic Council, but they can be just an observer if you want. So India is also observer, China is also observer here. Okay. Indark is research below the water level research, वही underground research facility है, वहीं पे. ठीक है. That is about Arctic and Arctic amplification. So let's finish some more topics. Climate change, ये जो COP का topic थोड़ा सा लंबा जाएगा. We'll take it in the next session. Okay, before that we'll finish some more topics. So come to the next one. 50 years of Stockholm Conference. See, Stockholm Conference is the beginning of everything. Everything related to environmental conservation. So before that, there were no major initiative at the international level. Only major initiative which was taken before Stockholm Conference was Ramsar Convention 1971. 1971 पे हुआ था. So it was between 1950s and 1960s. During this time, that there was overall increasing awareness about the environmental conservation across the world. In fact, nobody spoke about environmental issues. Okay, nobody discussed in detail about environmental issues. In fact, most of the major countries, they did not have environmental ministry itself. There was no environmental ministry even in India too. Okay, there was no environmental department also. So there are few major events which happened at the international level which raised the concern. One of the event was the London smog and the Los Angeles smog, which was in 1950, 1952. There was a huge smog which caused a very high amount of pollution, and the air became very bad, and the quality became very worse, and the people got infected. So many people died also. That is what is London smog. That happened in 1950, 1952. In 1960s, there was increased debate about the increasing pollution in the water and biomagnification. thanks to a book called as Silent Spring by Rachel Carson. Okay, so that book for the first time discussed about the issues of biomagnification, particularly DDT. So after that there was congressional hearing about that issue, and then they even USA even phased out completely DDT. So then such kind of discussion came up, and there was overall increase in awareness was there. So then overall they came to an agreement. Okay, we need to take care of our environment. We need to protect the environment. For that we have this convention, conference. Okay, conference happened at Stockholm. So before that, few other the history. So in 1965, there is this US advisory committee highlighted the role of human emitted carbon dioxide to atmospheric warming. Okay, so there was some talk about the overall increase in the temperature. And there was also, for the first time in UN General Assembly, they discussed about the climate change using the scientific evidence. And that was in 1968. After that, the Stockholm. Okay, so Stockholm, where is Stockholm? Sweden. Okay, so it is the Sweden which initiated, which said that we will organize a conference, okay, where all the countries of the world are invited to participate, and there we will discuss all about the environment and development. So that is what is called as the Sweden initiative, the Swedish initiative, and that resulted in Stockholm Conference. Stockholm Conference. So what is the Stockholm Conference? It happened in 1972. Which date? 5th June. 5th and 6th June of 1972. So that is why we still celebrate this as the World's Environment Day. It was on this day the Stockholm Conference happened. So this Stockholm Conference, the major agenda was that to discuss about the environment and development. Okay, so there was a huge debate between environment and development. And for the first time here, the countries recognize that both environment and development can go hand in hand, which gradually evolved to the concept of sustainable development. Okay, so उसके पहले यहाँ पर तो sustainable development का बात नहीं हुआ था. ये यूपीएससी में भी क्वेश्चन आ चुका है. Sustainable development, when was it for the first time spoken? कब बात हुआ था sustainable development के बारे में? Brundtland Commission, 1987. Okay. So here there was no discussion on the sustainable development, but the idea was discussed. That is what is both the development and the environmental protection can go hand in hand. It is not necessary that in the name of development we have to destroy the environment. It is not something which is compulsory. And that in that conference, most of the international countries participated. Okay, how many countries? 113 countries participated. India also participated. India is one of the very few countries whose head of the nation participated directly. Okay, it was our ex-Prime Minister Indira Gandhi who participated here, and in this conference she gave the very famous statement, poverty is the worst form of pollution. Okay, so that means that is where we are bringing that growth should also be there, and at the same time environmental protection should also be there. We cannot worry about environment without solving the issue of growth, because poor people, they will not think about protecting environment, conserving environment, if they don't have anything to eat. It is all this poverty, low income that results in higher pollution, right? ठीक है. So इसी कॉन्फ्रेंस में उसका बात हुआ था ओवरऑल, and it also resulted in a Stockholm Declaration. It also resulted in Stockholm Declaration. So Stockholm Declaration overall ऐसे ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं था. So majorly it listed some of the agendas to be followed, some of the principles to be followed, and few of the important principles which are presently in use. Okay, they take their origin to this Stockholm Declaration itself. Okay, example, the precautionary principle. सुना है प्रिकॉशनरी प्रिंसिपल? So what is precautionary principle? यही इसी में ओरिजिन हुआ है. लेटर इट वाज इंक्लूडेड इन रियो डिक्लेरेशन. 1992 रियो डिक्लेरेशन में भी इंक्लूड किया है. इट लिस्ट्स a total of 27 principles. One of the principle is precautionary principle. So what is precautionary principle? Any guesses? Yes, so almost. So basically till then the normal condition is that anything which the human beings are manufacturing can be used until it is proven that it is not safe. Okay, you can use a compound or an object or any kind of technology until it is proven that it is not safe. Precautionary principle says that you should use only when you prove that it is safe. You should not use it until it is proven that it is safe. ठीक है? So इसका best example है CFC, chlorofluorocarbon and ozone depleting substances. We were using continuously until we got to know that it is causing ozone depletion. Right? So तब तक तो बहुत ज़्यादा डैमेज हो चुका था. It will take a long period of time before we recover from here. We cannot do that. So precautionary principle says that if at all you are making something new, मान लो नया सा ऐसे प्रोडक्ट लेके बनाया है, CFC इंट्रोड्यूस करना है, तो पहले रिसर्च करो बैठ के, then prove that CFC is totally harmless, and then you start using this. And now before you start using, you have to prove that it is completely harmless. That is precautionary principle. It originated from the Stockholm Conference, Stockholm Declaration. Like that, it gave many declarations, and one of the very important outcome of this is establishment of UNEP, United Nations Environment Program, as the nodal agency for all environment related programs in UN. UN के अंदर जो भी environment related आएगा सब इसी के अंदर ही आएगा. So उसके बाद में ज़्यादा कुछ follow up नहीं हुआ था. So it was just an initiative, it was the beginning of everything. After 10 years, again all the countries met in 1982 in Nairobi. Okay, so after 10 years of Stockholm Conference, the same countries, in fact more countries met in Nairobi just to take a overall count कैसे हुआ है, तब बात किया था, कुछ किया है, काम किया है, आप लोग बताइए. कुछ पूछने के लिए they met again. So again that resulted in Nairobi Declaration. After 10 years, again we met in Rio. That is the famous Earth Summit. If the Stockholm had not happened, Rio would not have happened. And if Rio had not have happened, we wouldn't have had any of these international conventions. It was at Rio conference it resulted in 3 major international conventions: UNFCCC, UNCBD, UNCCD. All 3 are the major outcomes of Rio Earth Summit itself. And that was Stockholm plus 20. Okay? It was because of Stockholm, everything began from there. So that is why Stockholm Conference is considered to be the beginning of everything in the environmental conservation at the international level. And India has a very important significance for this Stockholm Conference. Of course, our Prime Minister participated and gave this very important statement over there. And also, it is because of the Stockholm Conference we were able to pass the Environment Protection Act of 1986. The Environment Protection Act of 1986 was passed based on the Stockholm Declaration itself. Wildlife Protection Act तो अलग ही था, ठीक है. So, but there is a direct correlation between Stockholm Declaration and Environment Protection Act. What is the direct correlation? So, Environment Protection Act was established. We brought it through legislation, right? So, it was passed in the Parliament. So, that was aftermath of Bhopal gas tragedy. It was after Bhopal gas tragedy we passed this law. And this is one of the most important law in the entire environmental जो भी legislation है, forest related जो भी legislation है, सबसे ज़्यादा powerful है Environment Protection Act. किसके लिए? Polluter pays principles. और why it is so important? सबसे ज़्यादा important तो यही है. It is because this act has not clearly defined anything. इसमें कोई भी कुछ भी ज़्यादा क्लियरली डिफाइन नहीं किया है एंड क्लियरली बोल दिया कि सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट कैन डू एनीथिंग एंड एवरीथिंग टू प्रोटेक्ट द एनवायरनमेंट. That is the most important provision. It is like a blank check given to the central government. Okay, central government can do everything to protect the environment. So this is the most important provision. So it makes the central government very, very powerful, and it can bring every provision to protect the environment, because such a kind of provision was required. So it was just aftermath of Bhopal gas tragedy, which is one of the worst industrial disaster which we had seen. And there was no provision to punish the culprits, or there was no provision to bring anyone to justice. Okay, so central government wanted it, but ऐसे तो इतना ज़्यादा powerful provision तो नहीं pass कर सकते parliament में, right? So parliament will question, the MPs will question, the people will question, how can central government is taking such most power, इतना power क्यों ले रहे? So there they brought this Stockholm Declaration. जैसे 1972 में हमने पास किया था, याद है? Okay, 14 years before. So in the constitution there is a provision that central government can implement these international agreements or international declarations and the domestic territory. Okay, in domestic territory we can implement this. Constitution में दिया है, वही provision लेके हमने ये act को pass कर दिया. So thanks to Stockholm Declaration. ठीक है? Fine. So now it was 50 years, so that is why all this came back. Stockholm plus 50 meeting happened again in Stockholm. So there they just met and they just recalled all these things. Not very important. Okay, but you just have to remember that it has been 50 years and what is Stockholm, uska background pata hona chahiye. Okay, so in that meeting, 50th meeting, they also came out with Stockholm plus 50 agenda. Okay, and also there was a theme, Stockholm plus 50 theme, that is a healthy planet for the prosperity of all. Our responsibility, our opportunity. Prelims में तो ऐसे directly नहीं आएगा, but still you have to just go through this. ये भी ज़्यादा important नहीं है कि what are the recommendations of this Stockholm plus 50 agenda, इसमें क्या क्या है, इतना भी important नहीं है. So just remember that there was a meeting and they came out with some recommendation, that would be sufficient. But background story is very important here. Montreal Protocol. So we have a query. Do we have any Arctic treaty which makes it free for all to have research and not belonging to any one country like we have for Antarctica? No, there is no such treaty for Arctic. For Antarctica, we have its treaty, Antarctica Treaty System 1961. Okay, which declares the entire Antarctica as a scientific preserve. Okay, and nobody can claim sovereignty and nobody can do any kind of military activity or any kind of violent activity over there. That is Antarctic Treaty. There is no such treaty for Arctic. Okay. Yes. No, there is no single subject related to environment as such. There is no single subject as such as environment. Forest comes under concurrent list. Okay, so like that, it is pollution related is different, water resource is different. There is no single subject which is defined as environment as such. Okay, so majorly forest. Forest earlier was in state list, it was transferred to concurrent list. Okay, so during the 42nd Amendment Act, they transferred to concurrent list. So otherwise, there is no single subject called as environment. Okay, so in this act, they have defined. They have defined what is environment. Environment includes what all? And the central government has the power to do everything to protect the environment as it deems. बोल दिया है, कुछ भी कर सकते. So and using that only we have brought so many rules. We have so many rules to protect the environment, all the waste management rules, wetland conservation rules, okay, groundwater conservation rules, or even coastal regulation zone. Okay, there are so many rules, and even this environmental impact assessment rules. Everything is from Environment Protection Act itself. It is from the act only. Okay. Next one, Montreal Protocol. Okay, we'll start from the basics. So what is ozone? Ozone is allotrope of oxygen. Okay, what is allotrope? Allotrope का मतलब क्या है? The different forms. Okay, for example, single O, O2, O3. These are the naturally occurring varieties of oxygen. Naturally occurring. Single O is called as atomic oxygen. O2 is molecular oxygen. O3 is ozone. Ozone. Among these, which one is most stable? O2 is most stable. Okay? And single O is most unstable. O3 is in between. Right? So we have huge amount of ozone in stratosphere, which accounts for 90% of the entire ozone in the Earth's atmosphere. Atmosphere में जितना भी ozone है, in that 90% is in stratosphere. Rest 10% is in troposphere, which is called as the tropospheric ozone, which is also called as the bad ozone, because it is a pollutant. So this ozone which is present in the stratosphere is protecting us by filtering UV rays. It filters UV rays. There are 3 types of UV rays. यहाँ पर 2 ही दिया है, एक और ऐड कर देना. UVC, UVA, UVB and UVC. So it is part of sun's electromagnetic radiation, right? Sun's electromagnetic radiation, while passing through the different layers of Earth's atmosphere, many of these high energy radiations get blocked over there. For example, X-rays and gamma rays gets blocked in the upper levels itself in thermosphere, exosphere, right? After that, what is left is UV radiation. UV radiation, when it passes through the stratosphere, there it maximum it gets filtered out, and what reaches the surface is majorly visible and the lower wavelengths, lower frequency. Okay? So all this passes through the stratosphere. So it is basically UV rays which get filtered out in the stratosphere. In that, UVC and UVB gets filtered out maximum, not UVA. Only 5% of UVA gets filtered out. 90% of UVB and almost 100% of UVC gets filtered out. That means the stratosphere blocks almost 100% of UVC, 90% of UVB and only 5% of UVA. In that, the most dangerous ones are UVC and UVB. UVC and UVB are more dangerous. UVA is fine. There's not much issue. You might have heard about vitamin D. Vitamin D production. It happens due to UV radiation. Okay, so we need UV radiation for vitamin D production in human body. So which UV radiation? ABC? UVB. We need UVB. Skin cancer due to UVC and a very long term exposure of UVB. That is why it is said morning sunlight लेना है, morning and evening का ही लेना है ना? That is overall nature. They say overall nature, but within the entire electromagnetic spectrum, there are different frequencies itself. Starting from gamma rays to radio waves, micro. I know there is a variation within that. Yes. But that too beyond this UV only. UV तो filter हो जाएगा majorly. UV, gamma, X-rays all get filtered. ठीक है. So only a part of it reaches the surface, and that is all thanks to ozone. How exactly ozone filters this out? How ozone stops the UV radiation? Through ozone cycle. Through ozone cycle. So in the stratosphere, it is not just ozone, there is also oxygen. We need both. Okay, if it is just ozone, we cannot filter out the UV radiation completely. The ozone absorbs UV radiation and gets converted into molecular oxygen. The molecular oxygen absorbs UV radiation and gets converted into ozone. Okay, so बस equation को balance करना है. Fine. So basically, the reaction, this is the overall outcome. What happens when ozone molecule absorbs UV radiation? It gets split into O plus O2. This is atomic oxygen and this is molecular oxygen. In the same way, another ozone also absorbs UV radiation and gets split into ozone and single atomic oxygen and molecular oxygen. These two will combine together to form O2. Fine. In the opposite direction, when O2 absorbs UV radiation, it gets split into two atomic oxygen, and this single atomic oxygen merges with another molecular oxygen, and that becomes O3. Fine. Confusion hai? Yes, I'll repeat. Important hai, let me just show this. स्ट्रेटोस्फीयर, दोनों साइकिल या स्ट्रेटोस्फीयर में ही होता है. So this is what is ozone cycle. Okay, start from here. Step 1. There was molecular oxygen. Okay, so there are two oxygen with bond here, and this bond is broken when UV radiation hits this. Because of this, it has resulted in two atomic oxygen. The bond between them is broken. Now this single atomic oxygen gets merged with another O2. O2 bhi hai, O3 bhi hai. In the entire stratosphere, we have both O2 as well as O3. This splitting generated atomic oxygen. This atomic oxygen, I told you, it is very unstable. It cannot remain in this state for longer duration of time. तो किसी को भी पकड़ के बॉन्ड बना देता है. तो वहां पर बचा है another O2, उसके साथ में मिक्स होके became O3. But this extra oxygen which has formed, यहाँ पर देखो double bond है, this is single bond, right? This extra oxygen which is attached just for temporary time being. Okay, it'll just keep waiting for any kind of reaction, and that is when UV radiation, another UV radiation falls here, and this will immediately break this bond and it will release this atomic oxygen. In the same way, another atomic oxygen is released somewhere else, and both of them will merge together to form O2. So फिर दोबारा O2 आ गया. So O2 will again absorb UV radiation to become O3. O3 will absorb UV radiation to become O2. In both the processes, we have UV radiation absorbing. UV radiation is absorbing in both the process. So that is how UV radiation is filtered in the stratosphere. So both are required. We need O3 as well as O2. O2 continuously generates O3, O3 continuously generates O2, right? Yes. अभी आता है ओजोन डिप्लीशन पे. How come ozone depletion happens? चलो यहीं पे एक्सप्लेन करते हैं. So here there is O2 and that is converted into atomic oxygen, and this atomic oxygen merged with another O2 became O3, and O3 got separated to produce single O, and single O merged with another single O to produce O2. Whenever there is ozone depleting substance, what do you mean by ozone depleting substance? The compounds which are capable of releasing certain kind of agents which will react with this ozone. What are the agents which will react with ozone? Okay, there are only three major agents. One is chlorine, another one is bromine, third one is nitric oxide. There are only three agents. These are ozone depleting agents. But naturally they are not occurring in the free state. They are usually found in the form of chlorofluorocarbon, CCl4, right? Or carbon, this is carbon tetrachloride, this is chlorofluorocarbon, right? Or hydrobromocarbon, methyl bromide, methyl chloroform, and various other nitrogen compounds which gradually dissociates to become nitric oxide. There are various compounds which are used by the human beings, and that gradually releases this free chlorine, free bromine and free nitric oxide. Free chlorine, free bromine and free nitric oxide are released from these compounds. Finally ऊपर जाके यही release होगा. Let's take just one. This chlorine, which is a free chlorine, it is very reactive. It is very reactive. This free chlorine, it will come and it will break this oxygen, this extra oxygen which is attached to the O2. There is O3, right? There is one extra oxygen which has made a bond with the O2 and it is being with the O3 as a group. It will remove this oxygen which is just attached with a weak bond. It will remove this and it will form ClO. That means it will not let this ozone to absorb UV radiation. It will not let the ozone to absorb UV radiation. Before it absorbs UV radiation, Cl will react with it and it will remove this extra oxygen. But ऐसे भी नहीं है कि ये खुद खुश है. Okay, ऐसे भी नहीं है कि he is happy by absorbing this extra oxygen. He will meet another ClO. वो बोलता है कि इसको छोड़ दो, हम दोनों एक बॉन्ड बना देते. So both of them will release this extra oxygen and they will form O2. And ये दोनों बॉन्ड बना देंगे, but ये भी कुछ नहीं है, फिर separate हो जाएंगे and it will become another chlorine atom. Now this is reactive, again it will come back here, again take extra oxygen and again it will go, again release that oxygen, again it will become free, again it will come back. Like this, each chlorine atom is capable of releasing thousands of ozone. Each chlorine atom will convert thousands of ozone into oxygen. What is happening gradually? We have more amount of oxygen and very less amount of ozone. That is what is called as ozone depletion. Naturally there was balance. The amount of oxygen, amount of ozone was balanced. So that is required. Otherwise ozone will start to deplete and oxygen will start to increase, and that is by this chlorine. Chlorine or bromine or nitric oxide is triggering this large scale conversion. Okay, large scale conversion is triggered by this. That is why they are very bad. Ozone depleting substances. Before it happens naturally, it will convert all the ozone into oxygen. So we will have very less amount of ozone. मतलब आधा conversion तो नहीं हो रहा, आधा filter हो जाएगा UV radiation, बाकी आधा तो filter नहीं होगा. Earlier ozone was also holding and oxygen was also holding. इसका जो part था वो तो छोड़ दिया. UV radiation को. Now that will reach the surface and it will cause many other issues, skin cancer. Okay, so eye issues, or even in many of the ecosystem also, plant productivity decreases, photosynthesis capacity decreases. All of this due to UV radiation. So that is what is ozone depleting substances. So we were using for a very long period of time these ozone depleting substances. Why were we using? These are the important ozone depleting agents: chlorine, bromine and nitric oxide. These were the compounds and these were the uses from where we were actually using. These were the applications. Most of them were cooling agents, refrigerants, aerosol propellants, plastic foam manufacturing, dry clean agents, pesticides, fire extinguishers, and nitric oxide to hai agriculture use, nitrogen compounds. Because free fluorine will not react with ozone that frequently. It is not very reactive. It is only free chlorine and free bromine. That is why CFC is a ozone depleting substance, not HFC. We need free chlorine or free bromine. Okay? Not free fluorine. Okay. Free fluorine is not a ozone depleting agent. Cl2 is stable in the lower atmosphere. In the higher atmosphere, in stratosphere, they are very unstable. Because of temperature, because of various other conditions, UV radiation के presence में तो बहुत free हो जाता है. High energy radiations, right? Yes, we can say so. Oxygen is. The difference is that the oxygen will absorb only a particular range of UV rays. The range of the frequency of UV rays absorbed by both oxygen and ozone, they are not same. They are different. So that is why both are required. The range of UV rays absorbed by oxygen is different. The range of UV rays absorbed by ozone is different. Okay, so that's a very good question. समझ आया? Ozone deplete होके oxygen तो increase हो रहा है ना? Then oxygen should absorb that. So it's because the absorption of UV radiation by ozone is different. Okay, it absorbs a particular frequency and oxygen absorbs a different frequency. Both are different. ठीक है. So these ozone depleting substances we have been using for a very long period of time, and then one day we suddenly realized. Why did we realize? Because there was a thorough research done, and the people who did research, they even got Nobel Peace Prize. Nobel Prize for Chemistry. Okay, that was in 1985. So that is when the world realized the importance of this ozone and the ozone depletion which is happening. So then all the countries met together and they came to a convention in 1985. That is Vienna Convention. Vienna Convention on Protection of Ozone Layer. As I told you earlier, the difference between convention and protocol. Convention is just a broader grouping. Okay, the agenda is to protect the ozone layer. So once they made the convention, they agreed and they started to discuss, and then it was in 1988 they agreed on a protocol which is called as the Montreal Protocol. 1987. Okay, 1987. So in 1987, so Montreal Protocol was agreed as a part of Vienna Convention itself. So as I told you earlier, in Vienna Convention there was no clearly defined targets. There were no clear-cut responsibilities. Nothing was decided. They just said we need cooperation. Okay, so whoever is ready to participate, let's make a convention as a group. बना दिया था. So then they decided we have to work faster and we have to work more efficiently. So let's make a protocol, that is Montreal Protocol. So the Montreal Protocol initially they targeted to reduce the ozone depleting substances. जितना ozone depleting substances produce होता है ना, so पूरा उसको 50% कम करने का target किया था. So gradually they increased to 90%. From 50 they took to gradually to 90%. So now most of the ozone depleting substances are reduced. Most of them have been reduced. पूरा के पूरा almost reduce हो गया है. So and this both Vienna Convention and Montreal Protocol, they are universally ratified. They are universally ratified. What do you mean by universal ratification? All UN members have signed it and then ratified it. Signing is different, ratification is different. Signing is just the representation is agreeing. Ratification passing in the sovereign body. Okay, in the Indian case it is the parliament. Parliament से acceptance रहना है, तभी बोलते ratification. So all the UN members have signed it as well as ratified it. It is a very rare thing, both Vienna Convention as well as the Montreal Protocol. ठीक है. So we gradually phased it out, and in fact the release of these ozone depleting substances have also gradually decreased. Okay, so from the 1990 levels we have decreased the overall release of this ozone depleting substances. That means we have already achieved the peaking तो अचीव हो गया, but it will take some time before this ozone holes to recover completely. What is a ozone hole? The regions where ozone depletion has happened to a maximum extent. Ozone is very, very thin. Okay, that region is called as ozone hole. Ozone hole is commonly found around Antarctica. Okay. So now, so over a period of time we have worked and we have gradually replaced most of these ozone depleting substances. Okay, so the most commonly used ozone depleting substances was CFC. CFC was very highly reactive, and that was replaced with HCFC, hydrochlorofluorocarbon. And you can see that HCFC also has chlorine atom in it. उसके अंदर chlorine है, and that is also ozone depleting, right? Yes, HCFC is also ozone depleting, but it is 90% less effective. It is 90% less effective, and it was the easier alternative to CFC. So that is why as an intermediary measure we replaced CFC with HCFC. Easy था, immediately replace करना easy था. So gradually we replaced HCFC with HFC, hydrofluorocarbon, which has no chlorine atom, and this is totally not a ozone depleting substance. So gradually we replaced most of the ozone depleting substances and we brought the alternatives, and throughout the world it has been very, very successful. There is a reason behind that. Why Vienna Convention is so successful? First reason, it accepts CBDR. What is CBDR? Common but differentiated responsibilities. It agrees that all the countries, they have a responsibility, but not all the countries will be able to do in the same manner. They will not be able to contribute in the same manner. Okay, सबका अपना responsibility है, सबका अपना capacity भी होता है. So that's why they have given different targets to different groups. Developed countries have a stronger targets. They have to reduce faster. Developing countries had a little easier targets. They were given more time. Okay, there is acceptance of common but differentiated responsibility. Second, there is also a funding mechanism, finance mechanism under the Montreal Protocol. What is the name of this? There is a funding mechanism through which the developing and less developed countries can take funding in order to replace this ozone depleting substances. What is the name of this fund? Multilateral fund. Okay, it is called as multilateral fund. So because of this, and there is also universal ratification, and this is a legally binding agreement. So that's why it has been very successful. But Around 2010, another problem came. Some of the research group, they said that this HFC, which you have introduced in order to replace this CFC and HCFC, it may not be a ozone depleting substance, but it is a greenhouse gas. ठीक है? So people said, तो आप लोगों ने क्या कर दिया? ओजोन डिप्लेशन कम करने के चक्कर में ग्लोबल वार्मिंग करवा रहे हो. सो दिस इज नॉट फाइन. तो ग्लोबल वार्मिंग तो इनके अंदर नहीं आता है. सो एट दैट टाइम ग्लोबल वार्मिंग वाज बीइंग हैंडल्ड बाय क्योटो प्रोटोकॉल. इट वाज अंडर क्योटो प्रोटोकॉल. सो Montreal, तो they could have clearly said, so Kyoto Protocol, there is a mechanism, you try to reduce the HFC concentration in the atmosphere. So we are doing our part to reduce ozone depleting substances. You do your part to reduce your greenhouse gas, but they did not say so because Kyoto Protocol was very weak and they were not very successful in reducing the greenhouse gas. So Montreal said, चलो इसको भी हम ही कम करते हैं, हमने ही लेके आए. So they brought an amendment which is called as Kigali Amendment. So that was in 2016. Kigali Amendment, basically it was added to the Montreal Protocol in order to replace HFC, in order to reduce the concentration of HFC gradually. They have kept a target of around 30-40 years. They started replacing from 2018. As usual, developed countries were given the first target. So they were asked to replace, they will start to replace this HFC production कम करो, उसको और replacement लेके आओ, ऐसे बोल के उनका टारगेट शुरू हुआ है 2018 से. Developing countries were divided into two groups. The first group will start their reduction targets from 2024 and the second group from 2028. India comes under which group? Second group. Okay, so our target is from 2028. From 2028, we have to start replacing HFC. HFC with HFO, hydrofluoroolefin, or any other compounds if we can find. Presently, the replacement for HFC is HFO, hydrofluoroolefin. So all of this, why we are discussing so much about this? Because it's been 35 years since we passed this Montreal Protocol. Okay, this was one of the questions asked in 2015. Simple and direct. So we'll cover one or two. I'll give you break at 4:30. Is that fine? We'll start at 5:30. Okay? We'll cover one or two topics. Yes, yes. So we are yet to come to conclusion. What is the reason behind that? So the research is saying that there is much more bigger ozone holes in the tropical region. Okay, we are not pretty sure what is the reason behind that. Okay, much bigger topic of discussion. Very briefly, I'll tell you. There are few conditions over Antarctica, but it enables Antarctica to cause ozone depletion at a faster rate. The first one, a very large surface area of continent, because Antarctica is continent. Second, the winters are very cold. Because of very large surface area, the winter temperature drops to much more lower levels. Okay, so it is very, very cold. Third, because of this, there is a very strong polar vortex which is formed over Antarctica. Okay, so very large surface area, winter temperatures are very cold, and the polar vortex is very strong. Strong polar vortex is formed. And when polar vortex is formed, whatever the ozone depleting substances are there in the air, it is totally trapped in the Antarctica region only. It will be trapped for longer duration because the winters are very cold and winters are long, at least for 2 to 3 months. There is no sunlight, total absence of sunlight. Okay, that generates a very strong polar vortex which traps this entire ozone depleting substances for longer duration of time. And the fourth condition, excessive formation of polar stratospheric clouds. Polar stratospheric clouds are very dry clouds which are formed in the stratosphere in polar regions, and they are formed in higher quantity at very low temperatures. Everything is favorable for the formation of polar stratospheric clouds in large number, and this polar stratospheric clouds acts as catalytic agents to make these ozone depleting substances more reactive, and that too it will hold these ozone depleting substances for some duration of time, and it will release all of them rapidly when the first sunlight falls during spring. When it is spring, the first sunlight falls over Antarctica, all these polar stratospheric clouds which are holding on to this ozone depleting substances will release all this immediately, and they are released at a rapid time, मतलब एक ही time में release हो गया, so because of which it causes rapid depletion of ozone. ठीक है, and still the polar vortex is strong, that is why there is no mixing of air. Okay, mixing नहीं होगा, so इसलिए पूरा उसके अंदर जो भी जितना भी ozone depleting substance है ना, it becomes very reactive and it will deplete the ozone to a very great level. It happens only during the winter. Absence of landmass and the temperature is not that cold and the polar vortex is also not that strong. ये जो भी हमें condition किया है वो वहाँ पर लागू नहीं होता है. Even polar vortex is not very strong. Polar stratospheric clouds are also not formed most frequently over there. All these reasons. The same is with Arctic region also. Here also it is stable, right? कौन सा? Bad ozone. So bad ozone is basically tropospheric ozone formed in the troposphere due to the interaction of nitrogenous compounds. Okay, and in some cases sulfurous compounds too in the presence of sunlight. Okay, that is what is smog. It is one of the component of smog. बहुत कम है, बट एक्चुअली जो एटमॉस्फेयर में ट्रोपोस्फेयर में होता है ना वो बनता है. इट इज फॉर्म्ड ड्यू टू स्मॉग फॉर्मेशन. चलो नेक्स्ट वन, यूएन ओशन कॉन्फ्रेंस. इसमें ज़्यादा कुछ बैकग्राउंड नहीं है. इट इज़ जस्ट ए कॉन्फ्रेंस टू प्रोटेक्ट द ओशंस, है ना, टू ब्रिंग ऑल द कंट्रीज टुगेदर टू टेक एफर्ट्स टू enhance the life in the ocean. There was first such conference happened, that was in 2017 in New York. New York में हुआ था and it was hosted by Fiji and Sweden. It was hosted by Fiji and Sweden. ठीक है. So in the same way, this year we had such conference in July 2022. So that happened in Lisbon. Where is Lisbon? Portugal. So that was hosted by Kenya and Portugal. So the outcome is Lisbon Declaration. ठीक है. So what is this Lisbon Declaration? Our ocean, our future. A call for action. Our ocean, our future. So these are all factual things. Direct question can be expected here. Okay, so either our ocean, our future, it is in the context of what? In the context of UNOC, Ocean Conference, or it is related to which declaration? Lisbon Declaration. Otherwise there is no international body here. Okay, कोई भी body नहीं है, कोई भी convention नहीं है. It is just a conference. This is Stockholm Conference बुलाया था ना. In the same way, this is Ocean Conference. So in the future, it may result in some other convention or protocol or other grouping that we will see. Okay, so did India participate here? Yes, ये important point है. India participated here, and here it gave a commitment that it will implement this coastal clean seas campaign. Coastal clean seas campaign. So there is also SDG 14. You have to remember important SDGs. SDG 14 is life below water. Okay, that is, you can quote this in all the questions related to blue economy. Okay, so the environment, all environmental issues related to the marine ecosystem, हर जगह में इसको quote कर सकते हैं. So in your mains, at least remember SDG 14 is life below water. ठीक है? And the country is also committed to protect at least 30% of global ocean by 2030. So 30/30 तो बहुत सारा है. इसके पहले एक 30/30 बताया था. Methane was 30/30, that was agreed in Glasgow. So this is 30/30 is UNOC. Okay, UN Ocean Conference, उसमें एग्री किया है 30% को हम प्रोटेक्ट करेंगे. 30% ऑफ द मरीन इकोसिस्टम विल प्रोटेक्टेड. एंड एक और 30/30 है UNCBD के कंटेक्स्ट में, कन्वेंशन ऑन बायोलॉजिकल डाइवर्सिटी, जो रिसेंटली एग्री हुआ है. ओके, so कुनमिंग फाइनली वो मॉन्ट्रियल में फाइनलाइज हुआ था. दैट इज ऑल्सो 30/30. ठीक है. सो अनदर इंपॉर्टेंट आउटकम, यूनेस्को रिलीज द रिपोर्ट which is called as the State of the Ocean Report. State of the Ocean Report. So India ने क्या बोला था? We will implement this clean coastal clean seas campaign, and उसको implement भी हमने कर दिया in a different name. स्वच्छ सागर सुरक्षित सागर. स्वच्छ सागर सुरक्षित सागर. It is basically campaign. So campaign क्या होता है? So awareness building measure है ना, to spread more information and to make people participate here. Okay, to make them know about it. That is what is basically campaign. So जैसे we had this बेटी बचाओ बेटी पढ़ाओ, that was also campaign, right? So this campaign had a specific target. So campaign तो ये कि like to keep the coastal region clean. That is what is the entire overall part. Swachh Sagar, Surakshit Sagar, right? To keep the coastal regions clean. So there they have a target, that is to clean 75 beaches in 75 days. They had this target to clean 75 beaches in 75 days. ठीक है. So these are all information. I think we can fasten it up here. Huh? Independent program. Entire UNOC itself is independent. It's just part of UN. It is just a conference. You just have to remember these information. चलो ठीक है. We'll continue after the break. Next class. Okay, we'll meet at 5:30.